Just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, brought to you by Bloke Jumpers. This week, this whole episode is brought to you by Bloke Jumpers because they are dropping 6 p.m. Wednesday. Set your alarms, guys. There's a limited amount, so set your alarms 6 p.m. Wednesday. We've got the Bloke hoodies and trackies. They're going to be $79.95 for the hoodies, $49.95 for the trackies. If you buy them both together, free shipping. So we've got brown and we've got black. Make sure to be there, guys, because once these go, you know, again, it's going to be at least another year until we drop hoodies. So be there or be square. Also, Bloke in a Bar beer is now in every single Celebrations, Bottle, Porters Liquor and IGA Plus Liquor in New South Wales and ACT. That's right. If you've got a Celebrations near you in New South Wales or ACT, they stock Bloke in a Bar. Or a Bottle, they stock Bloke in a Bar. Make sure to get in there. Plus, Bloke Midi is now in every single Liquor Legends across New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, ACT. Get in there, try the new Bloke Midi. A few people sent me some pictures on the weekend. They absolutely love it. Give her a crack. But the great Gurino, mate, how you going, brother?
Going well, mate. We snuck out to the Bulldogs-Tigers game yesterday. First game outside of Origin. First game I've been to in a while. That stadium's unreal.
Yeah.
CommBank, sorry.
CommBank,
it's unreal.
Yeah. It's I was just watching it on the screen, like on the TV. I was just like, look at the atmosphere compared to ANZ. Like, it looks like a place I want to be at. You know, I want to be a part of that crowd, enjoying it. Whereas when the Doggies play at ANZ, there is not a single part of me that wants to be in the stand.
And, mate, the ground wasn't packed either. I was surprised. There was less people than I thought, but it still had a cracking atmosphere.
Yeah.
Whereas you go, as you said, out there at Homebush, it's completely different.
Yeah. And also, the Doggies, we're talking about bottom table footy. Imagine if these guys start improving, they'll be able to pack it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Timothy, how you going, brother?
Very well, mate. Good to be along. Yeah, big weekend. Rosehill races on Saturday. Came out with a few very rare winners. Doesn't happen too often.
How good.
Into a Raiders miracle Sunday arvo.
A Raiders miracle.
Yeah, Hudson Young inspired.
Oh, wow.
Into the Bankwest game. Yeah.
We're yelling rugby league.
Mate, I was losing my mind. The greatest game of all. Into Bankwest, and as the Guru said, it was just the atmosphere. Like, the crowd wasn't massive, but the acoustics of the place, it was like it was being played over speakers, the crowd noise, to make up for the lack of crowd. It was just so loud. The atmosphere was unreal.
Man.
Loved the place.
I really wish, like, I understand we would probably be getting a lot of money from governments or whatever to play in ANZ, but I really think, like, the plan for the next 10, 20 years is to go back to smaller 15 to 20,000 stadiums because it just looks so much better. It looks so much better. But I'm sure it's more complicated. There's always more to it. Like, whenever the NRL makes a decision that doesn't seem to make sense with the ANZ and all that kind of stuff, there's always way more to it because they're good at what they do.
But yeah, standing in that one yesterday, I hope the SFS, the new one's very similar to it.
Yeah.
That's all we need that one to be.
I can't imagine it's not, surely.
Yeah, it's got to.
I reckon it's going to be hectic. And like the spot of the new stadium, like, it's in the perfect spot. You can just go straight down the road to get a beer. You can get, like, public transport's just like a step away, so that's going to go off, actually. It's going to be really interesting to see, like, in the next 10 to 15 years, like, is ANZ Stadium just going to be used for Origin and maybe Grand Finals? And even then, like, Grand Finals there, yeah, they're great, but you're still so far away from the game. So really interesting to see the different landscape change. What about yourself, mate? What did you get up to on the weekend?
My weekend was effectively over on Thursday night, about 30 minutes into the South game. I went down to Wollongong. And yeah, by full time, I wasn't even watching the game.
Did you see him on the TV?
No. Did you get put on TV?
There. I was on TV, right, like, behind Lomax. He was kicking his teams like 17,000.
Like, in a bloke beanie doing these ones.
No, that wasn't. No, I was behind that guy.
Oh, were you behind?
Was he wearing a bloke beanie?
Yeah, I thought so.
He was.
I didn't
really?
I didn't see him at the ground. I don't know who it was, but
Jeez.
I was sitting behind that guy. Yeah, I didn't see him do it. To be honest, it looked like a bloke beanie. But have we even sold bloke beanies?
You saw him at the live show. I'm sure it was. Have a look at it.
Oh, yeah.
I think last year we might have sold some. I honestly can't even remember.
But besides that, yeah, then I didn't do much on the weekend. I think I watched every game. Just sat down and watched every game.
Yeah.
Went to Vivid on the Friday.
Tell you what, you're busy on Instagram. Everyone, yeah. Matt Buxton,
yeah.
22. Give her a follow.
Thanks for the 800 follows.
800?
Oh, how's this? So you said that on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it was great. I was loving like, look at all these followers. It's so cool. I'm like, talking to my missus, I'm like, I'm going to catch her. and then South get pumped the next day, and the amount of messages I got from all these randoms were just, it was great. It was awesome.
Welcome to my world. Now, times that by, how many followers you got?
Now I got like 2,200.
Jeez. Times that by, 400.
What's your missus got?
She's on about 4,000 or 5,000.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay. Are they the new power couple or what?
It might be.
Hey, what's your name? Like, you like Brangela? Like,
Well, her
don't
name's
pretend
Courtney.
like you haven't fucking spoken about it.
I'll get back to you next Monday.
Oh, G up. Now, let's get into more important news. The squads have been announced. And we have to be... Look, I'm being honest. I did not expect this many changes. I will say, Freddie's bravery to make this many changes before game 2, if it pays off, he's an absolute hero. But if it doesn't pay off, wow, he's put his balls on the line. Now, there's no questioning his coaching now. He's been fantastic the last few years for New South Wales. But when you make these changes, it's so often coaches say once they get in the field, there's not much we can do. But when you make this many changes, it's going to affect the way they play. Like, it's not like he's going to... If he picked the same squad as the first game 1 and went into game 2, you could make the argument that group of players just didn't really do what he needed them to do. Whereas this, with so many changes, it's drastic, it's big. I like some of them I'm a bit surprised at. Guru, give me your first thoughts on the New South Wales game 2 squad.
Yeah, well, there's two ways to look at it. You know, either Freddie swallowing his pride, admitting where he went wrong, which I think not enough coaches do. But then there's the other side of it, that this game of musical chairs going on, it could really damage Blues culture. I think we'll know in a couple of weeks. But, I mean, even if they do win, it does send a tough message to everyone in the future.
Yeah.
I'm torn on it. I mean, all the changes he made, or most of the changes he made, I'm not against. Some of the guys that have come in, I'm very surprised by. I'm sure we'll get to those. But yeah, we'll see what happens over the next 2-3 weeks, I guess.
Timmy?
Yeah, look, I wasn't thrilled about it. And like the Guru, the changes made I don't dislike, but I just don't think the Blues lost game 1 in the selection room. They lost it on the field. I thought the team picked well. There was a few things I'd have had differently personally. Like, I don't think I thought the team selected wasn't that far off the mark. We lost the game by 1 try. We didn't play very well. Queensland were tremendous. It just screams of panic to me, and I don't think it needs to happen. We've won, 3 of the last 4 series. I know there was a couple of forced changes with Jackie White and getting COVID, but just big changes that, like, just relax. We weren't that far off Queensland in game 1.
Yeah.
Reset. Get over to Perth. It should be a nice dry surface, really conducive to our style of footy. And we'll see how it plays out. And again, we've questioned Freddie before and come out a game later and said he's a genius. So let's see.
It's interesting. I mean, if Isaiah Yeo was a metre further down the field on the last play and the Blues win, do we see any changes?
And that's the argument against the changes. It's
Yeah.
like, or if that Tupou pass to Teddy isn't considered forward, do we have any changes? Yeah, mate, it's really interesting. Matty, what do you think of this as a New South Welshman?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of deja vu because last time we went to Perth, he made 7 changes as well, and everyone kind of said the same thing. He's crazy, and that time he was proven right. But yeah, it's a tough one. I don't really know what to think because I know we can, like, probably by the time this podcast releases, they'll have the 1 to 17. But I'm struggling to figure the way I'm looking at it, the bench could be totally different. Like 4 people who weren't even playing game 1, which is pretty crazy. I like the addition of Matty Burton. I'm happy with that one, but yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, and I'm kind of with you guys. I'm really unsure where I sit on this, and I think that comes from the fact that, Freddie is good at what he does. He's proven it. 3 of the last 4 Origins, he's developed all these players into incredible players. So he deserves, I guess, the respect of, maybe I don't understand or agree, but I know that you know footy probably better than I do. I will say, and I'm not sure where I land on this. This is just musing, just a question that I've been thinking about a lot. Is like, even if New South Wales go on to win game 2, like, what is it like the building blocks going forward? It kind of feels like each year it's just reset. Like, you're basically fighting for your spot each year, and I understand that mindset of it's the best of the best each game. That's the way we go, and that mindset can work because it's like a very winning mindset. You make sure that everyone that's coming in they expect a really high standard. If you don't meet that, then you don't get to come along. But I guess my worry, if it doesn't work out, is each year, who are the building blocks in that team? Like, where is the core? Now, you could argue, well, look, he's always going to stick with Cleary, Luai, Cook most likely, even though Appy's been brought into the squad. Yo seems to be there a long time, and Tedesco would be. So you could argue that the spine of the team is the same, and that way you can make mass changes. But I would say, look, we've only really got a bit of evidence of a dynasty, and that was with that Queensland side. Now, to be fair, they were in an extremely lucky time, and I don't think, in my lifetime, I don't think we'll ever see that amount of future immortals all come through one after the other. But I will say the one common denominator that we could really look at in that Queensland dynasty was they really built a foundation of players and then slowly slotted in guys here and there, even if they weren't playing good at club. And my concern for New South Wales is that, okay, let's say they get the win this week, this year, then what will happen what happened in 2020? They get told, worst team ever, then they have a bad year. You know what I mean? I'm worried that it'll become inconsistent for New South Wales, where they'll blow Queensland off the park for a year or two, then they drop the ball, and then they reset again, blow Queensland off the park. What are your thoughts about that musing? Again, I don't know where I stand with it, because I can understand the standard of, like, if you're good, you get selected. But I also think that sometimes you've got to have a core group of blokes.
I understand, obviously, we always want to compare to the 8 in a row side and how they did it, but fuck, it's unfair to compare to that group. Like, as you said, they had 4 or 5 immortals in that team, and I mean, you go back and you have a look from the scores and those series, and Queensland were dominant throughout years, but throughout series, they were always close.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of series there where the Blues were close, and if you give us one of Smith, Thurston, Slater, GI, I reckon we probably jag a series or two in that 8 years.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have turned it. It probably would have been 7-1 or 6-2 or something along those lines, but I find it hard to compare to.
But you don't think, like, take result out of it and more look at, like, Queensland had a system that they really strongly stuck with. Players were playing really poorly at club, and they would still select them. Now, I understand there is a different. It's different because we had Cam Smith, Cooper Cronk, Billy Slater, and I mean, it's endless. It's endless. But I do think that you can take some things out of it. You know, some things that worked really well for them.
Yeah, I agree, and I would say that the approach, you know, as you said, the way that Freddie's doing at the moment is seemingly like it's like you can lose your spot at any given moment. Yeah, outside of a select few, and on paper, I don't have a huge problem with that if you're going to stick to that. But then I look at a guy like Josh Adokar, who I thought played unbelievable footy 6 weeks leading into Origin, and he loses his spot. Yeah. He now can't get a spot in this team when you've got Victor Radley, who's out for another 4 weeks from what the Roosters are telling us. Yeah. He's in this squad.
And what's interesting about that is, like, so on one hand, it's been this really high level of, like, you have to be at this level or you're not in the side. But then, you know, and this is no disrespect to Tarek Sims, he's a fucking great player. The Storm have signed him, so he clearly has something about him. But he wasn't playing the best at club, and and Freddie was loyal to him, so it's like a bit of mixed signalling.
And that's what, it's the mixed signalling. Yeah, it's either, if you're not playing well enough, you're not in the team. And I love that then every Blues player has to be at this standard to be there. But Freddie's been a bit wishy-washy with how he's done it. Sims has got there without being at that standard. Fox has missed it. Granted, for guys that were playing good football. But, yeah, it just... I love the idea on paper, but he's not really following it through in reality.
What do you reckon about that musing, Timmy?
Yeah, look, I like the attitude of getting rid of complacency and these veterans who think they should be in the team and dropping them to say as a wake-up call and saying this is the highest standard, we need to be at it every single week. I like that at NRL level where it's a long season and players can get a little bit complacent and they get given a week off to, you know, sort of as a wake-up call and to try and keep them at the highest level throughout the season. At Origin, it's like you don't need extra incentive to get players up for games. It's Origin. If you're not up for that, you know, you've got screws loose in your head. So I just think that attitude of, you know, like if we'd been beaten by 20 in game one, cool, you make changes because there's something wrong and things need to change. But we didn't. We're not that far off the mark. So I just think it's a very harsh attitude. And then you've got blokes come in, particularly debutants and blokes who haven't played many games. Crichton will play his second game, his first game's a starter. Now coming in going like 1 or 2 stuff-ups, I'm not here game 3, as opposed to having the backing of the coach going, all right, you know, I've won this spot, should have it for a little bit, time to prove myself. It's very tough on them.
As well, like you look at Crichton, for example. Now, Crichton came on and he made quite a few errors, unfortunately. But he's been given the grace of another opportunity. Staggs didn't really make any errors, and he hasn't been given the grace of another opportunity. So that's where it's really hard to gauge where is the baseline of selections and what's the principles that we select on. What is the principles? And it seems like for certain players he sees something else that you know what I mean. He's seeing different things for different players. So look, again, to be really clear though, if they go out there and kill it, because we have to remember game 2 2019 in Perth.
Yeah.
He made massive changes, and everyone, I remember when it happened, everyone was going, Freddie's lost his mind, Freddie is this, that, and the next thing. And what do? They go out and absolutely belt Queensland and go on to win the series, don't they?
Yeah, that was the Teddy try the next game.
Yeah, Teddy tried the next game. So there is form for Freddie that he sees something that most analysts don't see. And there's a real likelihood that, who knows, they go over there again, game 2, and kill it. And we're all sitting there going, you know what, Freddie, you're a bloody mad genius. What are the chances of that happening?
He's got it in him. There's no denying. And that's why, you're very hesitant to be too critical of this because he has got runs on the board. I think the hardest thing is too, and respectfully to Queensland, I think you understand where I'm coming from. New South Wales should be winning this series. We've got an NRL team right now that is probably the most dominant we've seen in a long time. They've got both the halves, they've got the lock forward, they've got the beating heart of. I think it's coming up to being one of the most dominant NRL teams we've ever seen. Full stop. It's so tough to work out how this is all going to play out. But I mean, if you are Ryan Madison, if you're Tony Staggs, you'd just be shattered, wouldn't you?
Oh, you'd be devastated. Devastated. And also, if you're like Nico Hines, you'd be going 18th man again. I can't even get that.
Oh, are we confident he will be 18?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. The reports are that Appy Coruscant will get that 14, and Hines will be 18 again. Now, I actually like Hines as an 18 because of head knocks to your halves and blah, blah, blah. And usually it's your halves that get the head knocks from foul play because they're trying to take him out or whatever. What do you reckon? What are the chances? Do you think that in Freddie we trust, he's done this before, or do you think that, might be a bit too much too soon?
I'll give Freddie the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Because I've doubted him before, and he's come back and produced plenty of successful series for us. Going back to that 2019 Game 1 to Game 2 with the mass changes, the name that stands out there that flipped it on its head, that didn't play Game 1, that played Game 2, was Tom Trbojevic.
Yeah.
He came out and put in one of the all-time Origin performances with a hat-trick of tries. So while there were mass changes, he was one of them, and he's probably worth about 20 points. He's that good.
Yeah.
Just on Tony Staggs, I mean, he's been dropped for 2 players, essentially, because Jack Whiten's gone, Crichton's come off the bench. Tony Staggs, looking back at Game 1, I didn't think he did a thing wrong. He played, 40-odd minutes. He was solid defensively, a couple of good runs in attack, looked quite powerful as he normally does, and he's been dropped as a result of it, went off with an injury. I find that so harsh on Tony Staggs, and what that'll do if he's confident, it's got to be horrible for him, doesn't it? And,
Well, he's gone from the second choice centre to 4th, 5th in a week.
Yeah, which is crazy. And
Because he got injured?
Because he wasn't bad on the weekend.
For a player, again, not a knock on Stephen Crichton, but he came on and he had some horrible moments in that game. I know we've spoken about it. He was playing in a different position in terms of being the utility off the bench, but he came on in his familiar centre position and he had some shockers. And Staggs has been dropped for that. Oof.
And that's what I mean is when you look at the 2 centres that for the minutes they played, you'd probably say Staggs had a better run than
Definitely did.
Crichton did.
Yeah, definitely. I think you.
Do you think it's the Penrith thing that has really helped him with that connection of and Freddie's just gone, you know what, I'm going all in on Penrith? Because when you look at it, you've now got Burton obviously been in the Bulldogs, but he's played way more footy at Penrith. You've now got Crichton, Appy at 14, Crichton at centre, Burton at centre. You've got Yo, Cleary, Luai. That's what are you looking at? 6 or 7 Penrith players. Do you think Freddie's just gone, you know what, I'm going that core Penrith boys because they are so dominant, as you said, and that's been a reason for it?
I think so. I think for sure.
Sorry, mate.
I don't think he's silly to do that either. to be honest with you. Like, if you have got a team that is going so well in the NRL, why not lean into it in the Origin arena?
Well, look at, like, again, I know you don't like to compare, but we lent into Melbourne Storm massively.
Yeah. Which, so you should have. You'd be stupid not to.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, mate, even New South Wales during that period, we tried to lean into Melbourne. The amount of guys we picked that weren't part of the big three from down there, we just didn't have that three that we needed, though, realistically.
Yes.
Like, hindsight's a great thing, but if you're going to go heavily on Penrith and bring in all these players, sure you just do it from game one, don't you? Like, it was, 3 weeks ago? Not that much has changed since then, has it?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I just think I just trust Freddie. You know, obviously I'm a Queenslander, but I just think, like, look, he's seeing something that we're not seeing when it comes to in camp, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's get into the actual specific selections. But before we get that, brought to you by Bloke Beer. Here is 12 stores in the spotlight. Ashfield Mall Cellars, Lake Macquarie Hotel. They both have the midi. So Ashfield Mall Cellars have the mid-strength. Lake Macquarie Hotel have the mid-strength. Go give it a try, guys. It's incredible. Kirk on Harris Piermont is the rest now. If I don't say they don't have midi, they don't have midi. But if I say they got midi, they got midi. Kirk on Harris Piermont, Tear Gardens Hotel Bondi Junction, Engadine Tavern, Topstrop Rossmore, Paddington Tavern has the midi. And I think they also have the OG. Blind Tiger Bar Everton Hills, they have the midi. Eagleby Plaza has the midi. Saltwater Creek has the midi. RQ's Tavern has the midi. And Kira Beach Bottle Shop Tugun has the midi. As always, guys, if you love this content and you really enjoy it, the best way to support it is to grab a case of beer. That's how we grow. That's how we keep this, like, super ad free. So grab a case of beer. It's a beautiful, easy drinking beer. Now let's get into the specific choices. Now, Matty Burton, let's get all the obvious stuff out of the way. Played with Panthers, won a premiership, reigning Dally M centre, is in extremely good form. But I also do really like the selection of Burton in a reaction to game one, if you're going to just look at it like that, because Cleary's kicking game was nowhere near where it was game one, where it was during the season in game one. Now, Matty Burton comes in, all of a sudden Queensland have two players they have to kick pressure. And I wonder whether Freddie has lent heavily into that, thinking, look, if we go into game two and once again they are just sprinting out after Cleary and hitting him, we put Burton on the other side of the ruck, boom, zing him the ball, and all of a sudden he's putting up these crazy torpy bombs. Do you think that has lent a lot into his selection?
As I said, we're at the ESA at Combank, and, mate, there was one bomb that he put up. We were pretty high up as it was, and I still had to watch it go up. Like Lockie, Freddie, GI, these sort of guys could hit balls sweetly. I'm not convinced that one I saw the other day wasn't the best hit ball I've seen live. It's incredible. And you made a really good point to me yesterday. I'll throw over to you about his left foot and his spirals.
Yeah, it was just really interesting that there's not a lot of left foot kickers in the NRL, particularly these fellas with the big boots and these big bombs that we see. Not only is he producing these monster torps, but doing it off the left foot. The ball's actually spinning the other way, which means when it's dipping and you're trying to catch as a fullback, it's going the other way. So if you're sitting there training and you're getting as a fullback, winger, getting your halfback to send these big torps up for you to prep for Matty Burton, probably 95% of those kickers and halves will be right foot kickers, and they dip in a similar way depending on what foot you use. When they get to the game and Birdo's doing it off his left foot and you're getting under it and it swings 2 metres the other way, good luck.
Oh, mate, it's such a weapon. It's such a weapon. And I think, like, a lot of kids now growing up are going to be taught, mate, I want you to spend 20 minutes a session just putting those bombs up. Because you want to get to a point where they're so comfortable that they kick torpy bombs just for length kicks. Yep. You know what I mean? You want it so good that they can essentially be not as good as soccer players, but really comfortable with their feet. So look, I understand the selection. I will say, the negative could be you lose a bit of that fucking brute power that Katoni Staggs had, or Latrell Mitchell, or Tom Trbojevic. Matty Burton, although he is strong for his size, no doubt, he's still developing physically, and I do think that his silkiness makes up for his size. But I wonder, do you think that they lose a bit of oomph coming out of their end with a Burton there?
A little bit, but mate, watching him live yesterday, he has got a bit of just fuck you about him, and I like that about him. I obviously Latrell, I'm sure we'll talk about him soon. I think he would have been the best pick in this spot, but man, from watching Burton over the last 2 years or so. And yesterday was actually the first time I've ever seen him live because of COVID and when he started and whatnot. I was really impressed, and it didn't. After watching him live, it didn't overly shock me that he was picked last night.
Yeah, okay. What do you reckon? Do they lose a bit of meterage out of their end?
They do, but it's not our issue, is it? We've got Toto, Tupu, Teddy. That's like as good a back three you'll get for yardage in an NRL roster, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, they've probably got the two best yardage wingers in the NRL, and then Teddy as a fullback, he'd be pretty close to number one as well, wouldn't he? So not an issue for me. And he said that added the class in the end of that back line, and the fact he comes in and plays outside Luai and sort of reignites that defensive edge, that they know each other's games inside out. Would be very comforting for Freddie Fittler to know going, I can trust these blokes to do a defensive job because they've done it together for a couple of years.
When we heard the rumours of Burton getting back in, did you think Fox was going to follow, considering the combination they've got at the moment?
I thought Fox would get the call back in because of the energy that he brought, and I thought, Freddie would just have to make that extremely tough call to Tupou, even though he has no reason to be dropped, and just say, you know what, it's not even about on the field, it's actually about off the field. That Fox has been a core member of this group for so long. We missed his energy, but I can also that's the hard thing though, is because Freddie picked Tupou and he thought he could do the job. He played well game one, so if you do pick him game one, you've probably got to stick with Tupou, because it's like, what did Tupou ever do? If you believed in him game one but you don't believe in him game two, it's like, he played good in game one, so you would believe in him more.
As much as that would have been a tough phone call, would the phone call have been that much different to Regan Campbell-Gillard?
Yeah, look, no, you're right. Again, that's when we were discussing before. It's like, that's where I'm a bit unsure.
Yeah.
I'm hard to find a common thread between all the selections. It feels like each one is different.
Like the phone call to Staggs, the phone call to Matto. I mean, they would have all been pretty similar to ringing Daniel Tupou, I think.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. Fox has got to be devastated, surely. I mean, I know we saw, he's a fighter, and there's a reason why he's one of the best wingers of this generation, if not the best. You could argue he's up there with, BMOS and all of that. But he's got to be. Do you reckon he'd be hurting right now? Obviously he'd be hurting, but do you reckon it's really hurting? Like, fuck me, what have I got to do to get back in this side? And what did I ever do to not be in the side?
Oh, I thought it was interesting. Did you see that clip last night that Freddie, he was at stadium last night and he met Burton after the game as he came off, and he sort of said, "Are you ready?" And where Freddie was standing, Fox would have had to have walked past him at some point. I wonder if there would have been a tough moment for Fox, or he would have thought, fuck,
am I in
is
here?
He here for me?
Yeah,
But then,
for sure.
I'm not sure if you saw, but the footage of them celebrating when they announced Matt Burton was there, the first guy to get up and hug him and get around him, Josh Adokar.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? Is that's what he means to groups.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that's why he should be.
And it didn't shock me in the slightest. He was the first guy to be up and the one that was the most excited for him.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon this could affect his confidence, or do you reckon he's such a superstar? No.
I think he's already shown that in the few games since he was brushed from Origin, how good he's been. His game's gone to another level. And it's a funny one when you're talking about the Blues sort of not picking and sticking and making changes and whatnot, and what that does to players' confidence coming into the team and out of the team. I had Adokar in my team for game one. I'd still have him there now. But if Freddie was to drop Tupou after game one, he didn't just, I said, Tony Staggs held his own. Tupou was one of our best and could not have done much more than he did. So it's like, if he dropped Tupou, the whole squad wouldn't be going, my job's on lines I could kill it and get dropped from this team. So he had to pick Tupou for game two.
That's a good point. That would be almost what? But then what's crazy is you could say the same for Fox before game one. He's played so well at Origin level. To drop him is insane. And what message does it send to everyone that the Fox, the heart and soul, the beating heart of your camp, that doesn't get selected? It's really tough. And you know what? It's really easy for us to sit here and speculate. The job Freddie has is so intense, and think about the pressure on that bloke's shoulders. They did this game one. They were doing crosses into the box. I was like, leave the man alone. I was like, do they understand the whole state is riding on him? Yeah. And they're like, so Freddie, how do you feel? Yeah, well, I feel fucked, mate. We just got a try scored against us.
And I saw an article that was like, oh, Freddie's frosty. It's like, what the fuck would you expect?
He's got do they understand the pressure that this bloke is under? Think about, there is hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million people talking about decisions that he made, positive or negative, a lot of negative out there as well, he's the one that has to live with that. Like, so it's very easy to speculate in that, but to be in Freddie's shoes, fuck, it'd be so tough. So tough.
Yeah, it's pretty wild at the moment. Like, if you look around the NRL, there's pretty much one or two players from just about every team that Freddie has dumped from his Blues squad now. Whether you're Kotrick, whether you're Campbell Gillard, Maddo, Staggs, like, there's been a heap over the years now of just guys that have played one or two games and have been.
It's interesting. It's really interesting because, like, we just had a quick look at, like, the selections since Game 1, 2018, and I just, when I look at Game 1, 2018, and I look at now, I wonder, has there been progress made, like, as a group together? I'm not sure. Like, yes, maybe. I'm not really sure. Like, are they a better footy side each year coming into the game? Like, obviously last year they were incredible. Yeah, it's really interesting. But look, I actually don't mind the selection of Burton. Burton's one where I could have seen Burton and Staggs starting the centres, and Crichton unfortunately missing out, not because of anything that he'd done at club or whatever, more because, like, he just was put in a tough position at 14. You know, for example, if he had started Crichton over Staggs in Game 1, I could have seen Crichton keeping that spot and Burton getting the other centre spot. I also like the Burton selection because of the positions he covers. Can play fullback, can play centre, can play both 7 and 6 if he had to. Can play 13 at a pinch, maybe.
He could play 1 too. I wouldn't be surprised if 1's going to be his best position.
Yeah,
whether
so
he ever gets there or not.
He's like for Jack Whiten, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would argue is it, like, where Jack Whiten may have him in aggression, he's probably a little bit silkier than Jack Whiten. I will find it interesting though. Do you think that Freddie's going to use him similar to Tom Trbojevic? You know, I understand Tom Trbojevic is a beast in his own. But I actually do envision Burton being like a roaming 13 back to be the link man, but like on the other side of the field, so that basically, let's say Isaiah Yeo, Cleary, and they're all set up on one side. I do envision Burton setting up on the other side and sometimes calling a Burton play. Do you think that's a possibility that he plays similar to Tom Trbojevic in the centres?
I think on paper, you know, you bring a debutant in who, like, really hasn't played that many games at first grade.
Yeah.
Well, he might be at 50. He'd probably be less than 50 still, really. So it's a big ask, but I reckon Burton's got that sort of attitude and confidence within himself that he could handle a role like that. Whether they do or not, I don't know. I'm always a big fan of it, but you always make good points about how it can affect your defence, everything on turnovers and where guys are. But I definitely think he could handle a role like that.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, you know, the chat of a roaming centre makes my hair stand on end. I love it, the idea of it. Whether or not Birdo does that, he's definitely got the game for it. But as Guru pointed out, on debut, is it a step too far in terms of asking him what to do? But I said he's in everything. He's obviously extremely fit. He can definitely do it. I don't know if Freddie will want that from him, but if he does start roaming around early on in this game, it's going to be very exciting.
Well, that's the other thing, because if you're assuming that Appy's going to be in the 14, I don't think they'll use. I think Appy and Cook won't be on the field at the same time.
Yeah, no.
So that's where you could use a Burton. Like, you won't have that extra guy just playing sort of 13.
And that's what I was kind of thinking is, like, you know, does he become like Benny Hunt to a degree when he stayed on the field and he was kind of roaming around in the middle there? So, yeah, look, interesting and massive congratulations to Matty Burton. What I love about Matty Burton's season is he started pretty rough. And most young talents, they crumble under that pressure and it just becomes a shit year for them to have a whole nother preseason before they can find that confidence again. He turned it around like that pretty much. In 2 weeks' time, he went from really struggling to, you know, he's one of the form players right now. Last couple of weeks at least. So massive congratulations to him.
Even from the start of his career in first grade, like, you got to remember, it wasn't that long ago we were going, who's going to be the 5'8" for Penrith, Burton or Luai? They went with Luai. Like, that could, like, so many stories you hear about these guns coming through and then they get overlooked for someone else, and that can be it.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
He's been incredibly resilient. Like, he couldn't find a spot in that Panthers side for a long time, managed to get a shot at centre, turned into the best centre in rugby league, arguably.
Yeah. And he had to fight for that. You have to remember, like, that was almost like he was put there because it was like we needed someone to fill an injury, maybe he'll be okay. And then all of a sudden you're going, he's actually one of the best centres in the fucking game.
To make it even better, like, we spoke a couple of weeks ago when the Fox first got dropped that had he not left Melbourne and stayed at the Bulldogs, does he get dropped from that Blues team? Almost certainly not, because he'd have about 28 tries to his name this season. Birdo's done it, going from the best team in the comp to, at the time, the worst team in the comp in the sense that 2 weeks ago they were coming last before these massive couple of weeks. So he's been picked from, at the time, the worst team in the comp, basically. You wouldn't say that now because they've been great, but that is, as a debutant, remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. In a key position too. Yeah. Pretty incredible.
You've got to wonder what would have happened if Canterbury would have just picked Kyle Flanagan in round 1. And instead of delaying...
it's Guru. Let's not go down there, Guru.
Can you imagine if they did, and instead of them wasting the first month fucking around with 6 different halfbacks, if they just had a
was so good at fullback. Oh, fuck. Don't get me started,
Guru. It's also like, imagine how much better Burton would be if, instead of now playing his 8th week with Flano, if he was playing his 15th week with him. And they played trials, they were allowed to stand next to each other in the pre-season.
Oh, mate. Imagine how good he would have been if Flanagan had played a whole year at 7 last year. And Averillo was at fullback the whole year. Oh man, it is.
Watching that script for it.
Watching that game, I'm just going like almost screaming at the telly because I'm just like, if nuffies like me and Gurino could see this shit fucking a year and a half ago, how could they like? And it was like they refused. It was like everyone was calling it. Even people that don't really watch footy as in detail as we do was going, mate, just pick a 7 and stick with it and put Averillo at the back. Anyway, we'll get to the Bulldogs because it's a great turnaround. And I tell you what, Potter, fucking hell, he keeps this up. Re-sign him. He's been fantastic. And he's actually... Yeah, we'll get to Potter. Sorry. Now, let's talk about Api Coruscant. First of all, massive congratulations to him. He had that little hiccup last year. He's fought his way back into the camp. I think he will start at 14. That's all the reports coming out. And usually the reports are pretty accurate because, Freddie is in the media. So I don't think people, like, for example, if Nine comes out with, this is a likely side, I don't think people would misrepresent Freddie like that because he's, you know what I mean, he's mate. Yeah. But again, I could be totally wrong. Now, Appy at 14. Look, I like this. I was actually calling for this after game 1. I really felt that they needed a traditional 14 that could play hooker. I've said it a couple of weeks in a row now, but the hooker has the most chance to change the game because he touches the ball first every single time they play the ball. Plus, he's in the middle in defence. I think it's a smart decision. I also think this allows Cook to just balls to the wall, mate, go as hard as you can. You do not have to worry about being gassed. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I'm on the fence with it. I don't love it. I don't hate it at all. I can completely see what Freddie's doing with bringing Appy in there. I would suspect it's probably a 50-30 split minutes-wise. Cook 50. Put it this way, I wouldn't want Cook playing anything less than 50. And the reason I'd be against it is because I think Cook is incredibly fit and I don't think he fatigues that much. Like, there's a lot of players who can't go the distance as an 80-minute hooker and be effective through the entirety of the contest. Cook, I don't think he loses that much leg speed in the back end of games, and he's so important to our attack that I'm more than happy to have him as our 80-minute hooker and keep him like that. So in that sense, we wouldn't need Appy. At the same time, as you just said, he doesn't have to leave anything in the tank while he's out there, Cookie, and he can just go hammer and tong at them, run whenever he sees an opportunity, and just be as electric as we know he can be. So with the injection of Appy off the bench, like, it could be a masterstroke.
Yeah.
So I'm not against the decision at all. I'm intrigued to see how it'll play out. I'd be happy with Cookie as an 80-minute hooker, but Appy's earned his way back in there. He was terrific on the weekend. So, yeah, good luck to him.
What do you reckon?
I like it. I feel like Cook, I love him as a footballer. Great defender. He couldn't possibly leave him out of this side, but I feel like over the last few years, it's like he just hesitates a little bit at a dummy half. Whereas I look at, like, if you could put the ruck recognition that Appy has, like, I think he's the best in the game for identifying when your markers are just a little bit off and just going bang, bang, bang. Like, we saw that try that he set up for Leota on the weekend, I think it was, like, darting out to the left, coming back to the right, hitting them. I reckon that this might be, in a way, good for Damien Cook because he's always had a mortgage on this jersey. All of a sudden, now you got Appy in there. Appy could be on his way to winning his second premiership on the trot. I think you might get a response out of Damien Cook off the back of this.
Look, I think you're going to see, I think Freddie's going to say to Cookie, I want you scooting like a winger sometimes.
Yep.
So, like, even if the markers are set, go. Because we just want to get that high speed. Like, you go back to game 1 last year, the big difference was Queensland were playing at one speed, New South Wales were playing at another speed, and New South Wales were on fast forward. It was like just constantly boom, boom, boom through the middle. And I think that's what they're going to do with Cookie is just go, we need to ramp that speed up even more. Any chance you get to run, And even if it's not a chance, just run.
And I think that's been the problem when I watch Cook, whether it's South Sydney, New South Wales, whatever. He runs when there's a complete opportunity.
Yeah.
We just need him to go when there's a half opportunity. Because what happens then, he gets a quick play, but we get off the back of that.
Yeah.
You look at when Harry Grant comes on, sometimes he runs at the wrong moments. But because he's got such good leg speed, you see then at Melbourne, Jerome Hughes and Cam Munson, they just flood the middle.
Yeah.
And they all just take it on. I think that's what we need from Cookie, and I know that's what we're going to get from Appy.
Yeah. Well, that's what Tom Trbojevic brought to you guys game one last year. He was around the ruck constantly.
Yep.
So, like, as soon as Teddy took a run, guess who's in there? Oh, fuck, we've got one of the fucking greatest fullbacks ever running at us as well. After one of the greatest fullbacks before. And so I think that's what Cookie's job's going to be, is just increase the pace of the game.
There was a moment in game one where Damien Cook got an offload and it was last tackle, and he had no choice but to run. He made it, and he tried to put a kick in at the end, and he almost missed his foot. It was a shocker, but it was the first time that he got the ball and just went, I'm just going to go straight, 100%. And I think he needs to be doing that on your third and fourth tackles. You quite often see him, he gets an offload, and he looks around to see where Cleary and Luai are. He just needs to go.
Yeah.
And just trust the boys will get off the back of him, and they'll be on the front foot then.
Yeah, it's interesting. Smithy was talking about a bit of hooker play like a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying some hookers, when they get out, they're already thinking like, where's my player, where's my player? When you've just got to get out and go, because that's where the space is. The space is there. That's where you're trying to get. As soon as you start thinking about where's my support, like I'm going to hit him behind, you've lost 2 seconds, and that's the space is now gone. Whereas if you just go, you may not pass the ball, but at least you take the space.
Harry Grant's the man at it, isn't
he?
Mate. Like, he just, as soon as he sees it, it's like deer in headlights, just looks out and goes, boom, takes off, and then exactly what you said and what Smithy said, he'll get to the line and then look up and go, all right, do I have options?
Yep.
A good team should have options, but he said he's taking that space immediately.
Take the space immediately, because regardless, you're not going to have a dominant tackle on you because they're not going to be ready for it. So yeah, it's and Harry Grant, he must be a menace to defend. I honestly reckon forward packs playing Harry Grant must just be like, fucking hell, it's constant. You cannot just say, up, back, up. You just can't do that. He just constantly breaks rhythms in defence. But congratulations, Coruscant. Nicho Hynes, look, I think it's a test. Like, let's say Nicho Hynes does keep that 18 role. I actually, although, I wish he would make his debut because I'm a big fan of Hynes, I think that is a big testament to how much Freddie does like him, because he, like, with all the changes made to keep Hynes in that 18 role when you could move that around and give someone else experience, I think that's a fair shout of how much Freddie thinks about Hynes. So that's really good for Nicho Hynes. Now, Liam Martin has been selected. Now, the reported team is that Liam Martin will be on one edge and it will be Cam Murray on the other edge. Now, you're probably lacking a bit in size and ranginess, but when it comes to workhorses, I mean, you couldn't get a much better locked edge.
Yeah, I think it was Smithy that was talking to you about his kick chase as well. It's just unreal. And when you go and you look through the stats of game one, I think he had 7 runs for 31 metres or something. But if you actually go and watch the game and you watch the moments where Liam Martin got the ball, I wouldn't say it was all entirely his fault, realistically. I like Liam Martin still being in this side. He's an origin player. He's just got some real grunts about him. He's just a goer. Even the way, and we'll talk about it later, but young Volkman debuted for the Warriors on the weekend. Liam Martin was like the boogeyman for him. He just went at him all night relentlessly. Yeah. I love that about Martin.
Timmy?
Just on Nicho, he's a bit unlucky in that the Blues have Jackie White and Matty Burton who are our first choice centres. Because it's a pretty rare thing for a half to be also able to play at centre, and the Blues have 2 of them. So had they not had that, and let's say it was Katoni Staggs at centre, Nicho's every chance to be on the bench because he covers the halves, but because we've got them guys available at centre, they can cover halves if one of them 2 goes down. But he'll get his chance. Martin and Murray, happy days. They're very reliable. You know what you're going to get out of them, don't you? There's a bit of controversy around Murray off the bench in game 1. They came out and said that he was coming back from injury. We didn't think he had 80 minutes in him. Fair enough. So it'll be interesting to see if Murray plays 80 in this game, and I think there's probably every chance he does. Yeah,
I did find that surprising, them coming out and saying we didn't think he was going to play 80, because I was like, why would you name him then? Why wouldn't you just get on the front foot and just... Because now you have to explain yourself. Yeah. Whereas if you had said,
like a backtrack to me.
If you had have said initially, look, he's on the bench because he hasn't played any footy, everyone would be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So that was interesting. But look, Greg Alexander is an honest bloke, so I doubt that he'd be lying about it. But I do think it's interesting. Now, Liam Martin, Cam Murray, Jordan McLean getting called back in. Really interesting. really interesting because, look, first of all, massive congratulations to McLean. I know we've spoken about him quite a bit with the Cowboys and how much his form has turned around. But when you look at, like, let's say you were to pull RCG out of the side, you think at least keep him in the squad. You know, RCG is still relatively young. I think he's only like, 27, 28? Pretty tough go on RCG. What do you reckon, Timmy?
I'd have picked RCG, and it's nothing against McLean. As you said, the fact that his career went not off whack for a few years there, but he was the Australian front row for a while there.
He was premier front row.
Yeah,
Storm.
and then went downhill a little bit in the sense that he was not picked in these rep sides. So to get himself back to a position now where he's getting called into the blue squad, congratulations to him. Campbell Gillard, I don't think he was the reason we lost game one. Yeah, we were beaten through the middle, and he's an impact on that, but I think he played about mid-30 minutes, so not massive game time. You can drop. It's one thing to drop a bloke. It's another to drop a bloke entirely from the squad. I don't see why he couldn't stick with that squad, keep building these bonds, go over to Perth with the boys.
That's what I mean. I understand team changes, but keeping them together is really important. You want to create that kind of bond. And on the weekend, RCG was incredible. He ran 250 metres, 15 metres, 95 post contact, and 24 tackles. And what's interesting is Junior, he ran for 229, 103 post contact. So that their games weren't that different. Junior keeps his starting spot, as he should, 100%. Whereas RCG just get completely dropped from the squad. Very, very tough. Very tough.
I could be wrong, but Jordan McLean hasn't played Origin, has he?
No.
He's played for the Kangaroos. He hasn't played Origin. So he's 30 years old. To bring in to drop Campbell Gillard and bring in a 30-year-old front row who hasn't played Origin, is anyone seeing him in the final 17?
I doubt it.
It's a strange pick, isn't it? It's not like you're setting yourself up for the future. He's 30 years old as a front rower.
I don't see what dividends is it going to pay. Unless Freddie has gotten word that McLean has been a big reason for Cowboys' turnaround. And he's very good at motivating in that. I mean, you could even argue that Dale Finucane should have been brought into the squad for that. Countless people have come out and said, mate, I was in camp with Dale Finucane, it changed the whole way I looked at the game.
We'll say one thing. Guru, so the 17 hasn't been announced to the Blues yet. It will hopefully drop during the podcast, but what have you got? You've got Appy, you've got probably Talakai.
The likely bench is going to be Appy, Talakai, Crichton, and Trbojevic.
Okay, so I don't think he'll be in there come game day, but they're missing a big body, aren't they, in terms of, from game one that we saw. So, Junior Paulo played off the bench in game one. It could happen. The middle's there, obviously, Jake Trbojevic, who's not a massive bloke. Crichton's big enough, but spends a lot of time on the edge, so it could happen, but unlikely.
Yeah. But massive congratulations to McLean. He's worked his ass off, and he has been good this year. Now, probably the most surprising of the lot, and look, massive congratulations to Victor Radley getting called in because, we know he does have an aura about him. We know he is built for Origin. He is built for it. But I don't even know if he's going to be back for at least another 3 or 4 weeks at club. So very surprised to see Victor Radley called into the squad. But I will say, if you are building for the future and he is going to be there year on year out, it's a great selection. Because it brings him into the squad, it gets around the boys. But as we were just discussing it kind of feels like for some people it's been selected for the future to keep the boys together, but then other people it's like, RCG gets taken out of squad, stacked. What do you think about the Victor Radley getting called in?
I am the biggest Victor Radley fan in the world, I'll happily admit that.
Yeah.
And I still wouldn't have picked him. I think the Roosters have got him down for around 19 return. Now, that's 4 weeks away, but we've also got rep round in between that. So that's essentially 5 weeks away. Let's say he returns 4 weeks early. He's still a week or so away. And I just think in the modern landscape, if 6 of these blokes get COVID and Radley can't come in, which, it's unlikely, I get it. But, if you do start to miss key guys, I just don't understand why you would have Victor Radley in there who cannot play this coming Sunday.
Yeah.
Can
he train full contact?
I'm not sure, but if he's a month away from returning, even if he is training full contact, would you not have been better off?
Like a Dale Finucane or something?
No one's coming to mind for me right now, but it just seems like a bizarre sort of waste of a roster spot. If he hadn't been in New South Wales camps before, makes more sense, but he has been. He's done. I think he's done 2 camps before previously with them. So I don't know. Is he? They're going to Perth. They're down. Is he just a personality to have in there? To try and lift it. That's the only thing I can make sense of it with.
I think it's not it is personality.
So bring in Josh Addo.
I know. It's tough. It's tough. But he's seen something. Freddie's seen something. In Freddie we trust. I do believe it's been purely out of energy that he's going to bring in the full mongrel and energy. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I think Freddie was just concerned about his amount of ball-playing locks available. So if Isaiah Yeo goes down, Cam Murray goes down, then Jake Trbojevic goes down, look, where are we going to turn?
Should have brought Jimmy Dimmick in as well.
No, so I just don't get it. As we said, even if he is fit to play, he hasn't played a game in that long. If he's brought into the squad for more experience and building towards the future, surely you can bring him over to Perth and not name him in the squad and do the exact same thing. But if shit does hit the fan and there's injuries or COVID this week and they need to choose from that extended bench, and he's one of the options there's got to be a Dale Finucane or someone that's a better option. As I said, I'm sure they can fly him over to Perth outside of the named squad if that's the thought. But so it'll be interesting to get what Freddie's take is on why Radley's in there, but it does make a heap of sense, but good luck to him.
Yeah, it's what's really interesting about this one is Latrell Mitchell, everyone was like, no way can he be brought in. He hasn't played any footy. And Latrell Mitchell is back pretty much. The only thing that held him back was the COVID. Even if Latrell wasn't going to play, you kind of feel like bring him across to help the 2 debutants. Because I know Crichton, I know he come off the bench, but this is his real debut when it comes to starting. The perfect bloke in the squad to help them learn is the best centre since Greg Inglis. It's Latrell Mitchell. And that's what's surprising to me, that if this is the case, you've brought Radley in to bring aggression, to bring energy, which I understand that thought process. I really do. Because he is a larger-than-life personality and he has something that a lot of other players don't. Tell me another forward that has the same mythology around him the same Victor Radley does. But then you look at Latrell and you're like, well, he's also like that. So why isn't he in the squad? Now, maybe Freddie reached out and Latrell, couldn't make it because he's away or whatever. But very interesting. But, again.
It's almost like this camp can do more for Victor Radley spending a week with Isaiah Yeo than what Victor Radley can do for New South Wales.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he's trying to boost his confidence or something.
Which is a bizarre I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to make sense of that one.
Now, Joseph Suaalii, holy moly, he's killing it. He is a fucking beast, man. And it's just flying under the radar. I think people are starting to take notice now. But he is so good. He's got such quality about him. Plus, his ability to take physical the big hits in through the middle. Every time he runs the ball, he skittles them. Every time. He's incredible. So look, Suaalii, I totally understand that decision. As a matter of fact, if I'm Freddie, I'm just getting him ready to make his debut as soon as possible because I think he's that good. He's that good. Any thoughts on Suaalii quickly?
Oh, yeah, I'd always keep him in there now until his time come, which
next year,
could be. If they lose this, it could be game 3.
Probably will be game 3, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, if they lose, it could be game 3. If not, game 1 next year, surely.
Probably game 1 next year. And, look, I think as we've realised, no position is really safe. Suaalii will be there game 1 next year, most likely, if he continues this form.
Well, you'd have to assume. I'd like to assume Brian To'o will be there no matter what, but seemingly that other
wing spot is open.
Is up for grabs, so Suaalii.
Now, the joker in the pack. Talakai gets selected. Now, the reports are he will be on the bench. Really interesting because even though Talakai has been solid the last few weeks, I think he has been a bit quieter than he was at the start of the year. But I actually don't mind the selection because he really can break the game open. What are your thoughts, Timmy, on the Talakai selection?
Yeah, a little mixed on it because it's just come from, in terms of this season, it's come from nowhere. This is a bloke who I believe didn't crack the Sharks starting 17 in round 1 this year. Last year, he had a few chances for the Sharkies, had some great moments, but then would back up some horrific defensive moments. But to his credit, he's just turned his game on its head this season, both as a back rower and then now as a centre. Defensively, he's been excellent. He looks so fit, so powerful. He's the perfect bench utility to have there because he can cover edge, he can cover middle, he can cover centre, outside backs, you can cover wing there as well. He wouldn't play on the wing, but you could manipulate it around that. and he's an X factor off the bench. That, as you said, he can bust a game open. So it's an interesting one. Like my gut says maybe there's better options, but he's exciting to have coming off the bench, isn't he?
I mean, like as a Queenslander, he's the kind of player where you go, fuck, if he's on, this could be a nightmare for us. What do you reckon, Guru?
Just to play a bit of blank resume. So I've had a lot of people say to me that he's been really quiet over the last 7 weeks or so.
No, he hasn't. He's been solid. He's been solid.
Yeah, so ever since that game against Manly, I've got him, and then I've got a player B. I'll tell you who player B is after. Tries, Talakai's scored 1, player B's had 3, so he wins that one. Try assists, Talakai's had 2, player B's had 0. Line breaks, Talakai's had 2, player B's had 1. Average run meters 167 for Talakai, 150 for player B, so he's beating him by 27 metres per game there. Post contact meters, Talakai 74 per game in the last 7 weeks. Player B is at 50 post contact, so he beats him by 25 there. Average tackle breaks, Talakai 4.5 in the last 7 weeks. Player B's at 3.8. Missed tackles. In the last 7 weeks, Talakai's missed 9 tackles. Player B has missed 17. It's not an insult to player B, but player B is Val Holmes.
Yeah, wow.
And that's not an insult to Val Holmes. He should 100% be there.
As a Queenslander, I feel insulted.
Good. I'm glad you do.
But don't you dare take the Lord's name, Lord Holmes, in vain after his incredible performance on the weekend. You piece of shit. How dare you, Guru? How dare you?
Well, that's the other thing as well. I mean, you look at average run meters. Talakai's got him by 17 run meters, and Val Holmes ran 80 metres to score a try on the weekend too. Match winner, yeah. And look, I'm not. I'm not having a go at Val Holmes. I know you know. I'm worried about them.
Okay.
I would 100% pick Val Holmes. I think he's one of the best centres in the comp. But just because Talakai isn't scoring 3 tries and having a million tackle breaks doesn't mean he's not playing good footy. To average 75 post contact metres across 7 weeks at centre in a team not doing overly well. That shows what he can do. And Freddie's not even going to use him as a centre. He's going to use him as a middle. I think he's going to get 25 to 30 minutes, and he's going to be told just cause havoc.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, like, even, Stags, although Stags won the battle, and I think he won it handily, you actually go back and watch that game and you look at Talakai's statistics. He was fucking one of their best, the Sharkies' best. And I think sometimes, like, when a player has this, like, crazy game, everyone just expects that each week. And it's just like, that doesn't happen.
And since that crazy game, can you imagine the amount of homework that coaches are doing on him? And I don't care what you say, he's playing out of position. He's not a centre. He's a back rower. He is an incredibly good centre, but he's playing out of position. He's getting used to a new position. He played it when he was younger, but that was 6 or 7 years ago. Playing centre then and playing centre now, you're worlds away, realistically.
So, yeah, look, that's the joker in the deck. That's something that I look at. And I look at the bench and go, oh, that's a guy that can come on and do something special. It's kind of like when you look at our bench, I know Carrigan came out and fucking was incredible, but I think Harry Grant was kind of that version for us where you're like, just the joker in the deck. You don't know what's going to happen with him.
I'd love to see them put Talakai and Appy on the field at the same time.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Really, really interesting. Now, Jake Trbojevic, massive congratulations. I like this selection. I thought he was the heart and soul. Look, I understand why he didn't get selected for game 1. Maybe the game is a lot quicker now and all of that kind of stuff. But then when I look at game 1 and I say, what did they miss? They didn't miss hard because they defended their ass off. But I do think that Jakey really could have helped them in certain periods, just bring him together, either calm him down or lift him up. And so I think he's going to be great in camp as well. Bring that old kind of experienced player. Because when you look at the squad, really, you've got Teddy at the back. But let's look at the forward pack. Payne Haas, rookie in context, like 60 or 70 games. Then you've got Liam Martin, rookie in context compared to everyone. You've got Jordan McLean, who's not going to probably play. You've got Cam Murray. I wouldn't say he's a veteran yet. I would say he doesn't have the same standing in the game yet as Jake Trbojevic, but he's probably going to get there. Junior Bolo, I think, he is a veteran now, but he's not the same type of player as Jake Trbojevic. He's not that. He's a more actions guy. He's not a big talker. So when you look at that squad, you go, well, do they really have that old head that's going to talk to him and just get him in the right mindset? I think Jake Trbojevic can be that. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I don't love it. I just think I'll contradict myself here a little bit because stats aren't everything in the NRL. We know that, but they do tell a bit of a story. Jake Trbojevic has busted 1 tackle in 15 games this season. I busted more tackles fishing last weekend. Honestly, he just it's one tackle in 15 games. And when
Did you really bust more tackles in fishing?
No, I'm the worst fisherman on the planet. I'd throw a line into a pool and get some.
Oh, that's
I enjoy
great.
it.
It's one of your best, Timmy.
Horrible.
It's one of your best.
Thanks, mate. And I just when we sit there and preach about 13s and being like how the modern day forward pack, and we spoke about it game 1 with the selection with the Cotters and Nanais and these sort of fellas about forward packs needing to be a little bit more mobile. I don't know if Jake Trbojevic is the answer to that. If we needed a ball playing lock, he could slot in there terrific. He has those sort of immeasurable sort of things, as you mentioned, like heart. His line speed's terrific. Defensively, he won't miss a tackle. He'll whack blokes and dominate the ruck. So they're the things that stats don't cover. And he'll bring a lot. And he's not going to let us down by any means. I just think when it could be like, say, a Ryan Madison coming off the bench, adding that X factor, I would prefer Maddo, who will also get about 5 offloads to his name. But as I said, Gerbo's not going to let us down, is he? He's great. He'll be great for the boys. He'll bring a lot of passion. So...
What do you reckon?
Yeah, I lean more towards Tim's point of view that, 2 weeks ago, Freddie decided that I assume Gerbo was a little bit too slow for the new Origin arena, for how quick it was. He'd moved in a new direction. And once again, if Teddy scores that try, if Yo scores that try in that last play, I don't think Gerbo comes back into this side. I'm not going to criticise him because I know he's a born champion and he will play well. I have no doubt about it. But I do think it's a strange move by Freddie to make a bold decision to not pick a guy like him. And then when we get within an inch of winning, suddenly rush him back into the side. But when you look at the other side of the card, all the stuff you mentioned, he's got more ticker than anyone in this squad. And I kind of felt like we didn't overly lack that in game 1, to be honest with you. I'm torn on Jake. I don't think he deserved to get dropped in game 1, but I understood why Freddie did it. And I think if he made that decision 2 weeks ago, potentially should have stuck with it. But if we're sitting here next Monday and we go, well, Jake Trbojevic got man of the match, I'm also not going to be shocked.
Yeah. Look, I place, as a ex-player, there's just so many times where I've seen experience matter. Like, just so many times. And when you're a young fella coming through, you're like, fuck that, experience this. Like, I'm young, explosive and fresh. I'm fucking ready to go. And then as the years go by, you go, you know what? That experience, that being there on the big stage, never let his mates down, that intangible quality, there's something that you can't measure. And like a perfect example right now is the Broncos. Like, their squad on paper, you could argue, is worse than what they had 2 years ago. But there's been an intangible cultural shift at that club of blokes that are willing to fucking put their bodies on the line for 80 minutes of footy. I was super proud of the boys on the weekend. We'll get into that because I've got some things to fucking say. And so that's just a good example of like a cultural shift. And Jake Trbojevic, he is a cultural shift. You look at Manly, they've been without Tom Trbojevic. I actually think Manly have been playing some really good footy for how much they've been having to deal with. Croker has come out of nowhere, not out of nowhere. He's been slowly building to this, but his game on the weekend was incredible. I think Jake Trbojevic has a lot to do with Manly being able to still kind of like tread water and stay above float rather than just fucking collapsing. So that's why I do like the Trbojevic selection.
Would you keep Gerbo on the bench or would you start him? He's the only front rower sitting on the bench. Would you start him and maybe bring, Junior or Payne on a little bit later in the game?
Look, I know he's not as explosive and young as a Paddy Carrigan, but I would try to use him similar to the way Paddy Carrigan was used, where I want him flying out of line, fucking snapping blokes. Go on there, just rip and tear. We know you can go 80, so just go on there, rip and tear. Just don't think about any ball playing. Don't think about, I want you to tuck the ball under your arm and just fucking go. Because I do think Jake Trbojevic still has that in him. I do think that, although I agree statistically, it's not the best, and he's been a bit quiet this year, I do think he is a victim of a game plan that Manly really want to stick to, and he is not allowed to really, not allowed to play the way he wants to play, and that stifles him a little bit. Whereas if you're coming off the bench, you're not the 80-minute guy just cleaning up everything, rah-rah. You can just come and rip and tear, and I think there's a chance we might see that with Jakey.
So assuming, in this game, if all goes to plan and, it's 6-all after 20 minutes, it's a typical Origin where it's close, what are your first 2 subs? Are you taking off the front rowers and are you putting on Angus and Gerbo then?
Yeah.
What's your...
you'd have to see how the game's
assuming
feeling,
no
yeah.
HIA, no injuries, how do you play it out?
Yeah,
Or do you just,
a 20
I
minute
assume,
mark.
are we all in agreement that Talakai will be the third guy to come off the bench
Yeah.
eventually?
I'd probably have Jake as my first one because I know he can play long minutes, and if something happens out there, keep him out there. Then I'd bring Angus on, and then Talakai at around the 30-minute mark, or even, Look, the thing with substitutions is like, look at Slater. He had this whole fucking plan for game 1, and it just exploded in his face. That's a big part of Queensland's victory that doesn't get enough appreciation. We were decimated with injury. We got fucking annihilated, and blokes just kept turning up. So, I'd probably go Jakey first to come on, just because he can play the longer minutes.
So are you expecting Payne to play bigger minutes then in this game?
Maybe, because I thought Payne was probably your best forward last game. I know he wasn't as good as he is at club, but I still think he was quite damaging in game 1, and he was the only one that was, not the only one, but he was really bending our line. So I would be trying to squeeze a little bit more out of Payne.
Yeah, he looked like I never doubt Payne Haas, obviously, but I mean he does look a little bit banged up at the moment.
Yeah,
wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, he doesn't have that same extra little punch that he had maybe at the start of the year. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, interesting to see how it all plays out. I think you're right in that Gerbo Angus will be the first 2 to come on. Sifa, it's like something Sifa will not even be close to having experience before, because for starters he's been playing centre all season. He's also, prior to that, been an edge forward. He's come on at times in the middle for the Sharks, but predominantly a second rower. So he'll be coming on, we believe, as a middle in the speed in the cauldron of Origin. So I think you'll get one 20-25 minute stint out of Sifa where he'll just come on and go ham for that period, and then he'll probably go off. Appy probably comes on, do we think, about 50 minutes, 25 minutes in the second half, then cook for the last 10?
Yeah.
Or do you see him coming on earlier than that?
Do they bring him on at 30 and keep him on for that middle bit?
I don't think they're going to use 2 subs on these hookers, personally. I think they'll use 1.
Right.
Okay.
So you think cooking to say 50, Appy the last third,
I
or
think
25?
so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that. And save that substitution and just get Cook. Because
Well,
Cook is
mate,
not going to...
when you've got 1 front rower on your bench, I think that they're going to have to rotate those boys a bit.
Interesting. Well, who knows? In Freddie we trust. Now on to the mighty Queensland side. Look, there actually are some really interesting selections here. Now, some may go, oh, look, it's just essentially the same. Yeah, they've had a couple injuries or whatever. But I actually think there's some really interesting changes here that I want to discuss. I also want to discuss a few of the extended squad. But let's get into the squad. First of all, broad strokes, how are we feeling about the squad?
Yeah, pretty stock standard, what I anticipated. Obviously, Ruben Cotter. How heartbreaking.
Fuck me dead.
Like, as a New South Wales fan, I was stoked because he's an absolute menace. But, I mean, when you think about all the stuff, all the injuries he's been through the last few years, and then for a hamstring to bring him down in warm-up, what a nightmare.
The thing that not upsets me, but makes me sad for Cotter is like that injury, the way it seemed to have happened. And again, I'm no physio, guys. Go to at NRL Physio. He's the best in the business. But it seemed like that's a fatigue injury, as in you have been running yourself ragged for a few weeks. Because it wasn't like high stress situation. It wasn't at really high speeds. Like that was just a boom. And in my experience, when that happens, it's usually your body's fatigued. But if the NRL physio, if he's watching, let us know. Does those injuries happen because you've been at working so hard for so many weeks and your muscles have become fatigued? Or is that just purely luck, chance? It can happen to a guy that's been resting and stretched up and all good to go, or it can happen to anyone. So
I was actually sitting with another mate who's a physio, and when it happened, he sort of said the other thing that could have impacted was coming from North Queensland. It was freezing on Thursday night.
Yeah, okay.
That really hot condition and cold.
Yeah.
But interested to see what Brian, NRL physio, thinks. So he's actually just launched his own podcast too, The Magic Sponge.
The Magic Sponge.
Yeah.
Give a subscribe. Subscribe to The Magic Sponge on all your good podcasting apps.
NRL Physio's Twitter post was Cotter had been dealing with a hamstring niggle all week, often a warning sign of sorts for increased muscle strain risk.
Why did they play him? See, that's crazy. That's where I go. That's where I say, like, if a guy like Cotter is saying that I'm having issues with my hammies, you listen to him. It's not a prima donna winger like me that's like, I just want to have the weekend off. It's an actual dog, a motherfucker.
Well, maybe they didn't. He told them to fuck off. Wouldn't surprise me.
But that's when you need.
slightest.
That's when you need to step in as a coach. Like that's what you get paid for. You get paid to make those calls. That sucks. But you know what? It's easy in hindsight to say. You know, like he could have gone out, played the whole game, had a bit of tightness, and been sweet, and we'd all be sitting there going, "Yeah, that's tough. That's Cotter." So look, double-edged sword. That's what makes him so great. So it basically was from a bit of fatigue / tightness. Damn. But yeah,
Big loss, isn't it? Like,
Mate, it's
lose to
massive
Debutant
loss.
from last game. You know, on paper it isn't huge, but it's massive.
we talk about hearts of teams.
Yep.
Like for Billy Slater to come out and say, we're not talking about Cotter because we expect that from Cotter. And he is Queensland. The greatest fullback of all time to a lot of people is going, that guy is Queensland. That's a big loss. And I'm actually slightly surprised at the selection at 13.
So
Not gonna lie. But we'll get into that. So Kalen Ponga, oh man, and we'll get into the Knights game, but fuck, he gets banged around, man. Like I actually remember when I brought this up with Smithy on the podcast on Thursday, where I was like, KP's getting a bit banged around, and Smithy was like, yeah, but that's why he gets selected because he plays with that aggression, which I 100% agree with. But I'm like, God damn, he's almost feel like he's unlucky. Like every chance he can get, he gets head high, late shotted. Like fuck, mate. I hope this off season they go to KP, mate. Just go away and fully recover and get your body right. But anyway, KP at fullback, I thought he was outstanding game one. Selwyn Cobbo on the sting.
Can I just jump in on KP?
Yeah.
He might be one to watch this week, and I'm interested in your take on it as well, because in that game yesterday where Hudson Young grubbed through, and I'd love, if anyone was at the Canberra Raiders game, reach out and tell us. The play before that, Hudson Young goes through as a decoy, and he goes well through the line, and he goes off shot, and he comes back into shot, and he gets the ball back, and he goes to the left, he comes off his left foot, he goes to the right, and as soon as he goes to the right, KP in a very un-KP moment just stops and grabs his shoulder. I'd love to know if Hudson Young on that decoy ran into KP on the play before, because the game was on the line. It was 90 seconds to go. KP, we know how competitive he is. You might not like KP, but he is competitive as all hell. He just sort of gave up on his assignment and grabbed his shoulder straight away. I'm wondering, and we'll talk about him soon, Jersey 22, Reece Walsh, I wonder if KP is pretty banged up coming into this game, because you watch that try that Hudson Young scored, watch KP, he just stops in pain grabbing his shoulder.
He goes straight like that.
There's 90 seconds to go. There is no reason for KP not to be there when the game's on the line unless he's injured.
He's listening.
There he is. He heard me. So, I'd keep an eye on KP this week. I
was going to bring this up as well, but not about that.
Yeah.
That late shot in his back, he was fucked. Like if we're serious about, head knocks and all that kind of stuff, he probably shouldn't have been on the field. Like that. Have you seen the replay of it?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It was fucking bad. Like full whiplash, boom, and he was pretty much out before he hit the ground. No, I agree with you. I think there are a bit of question marks as to, is KP going to be 100% fit and healthy to play game?
We were watching that game live yesterday, and we both sort of went, where is KP? What is it? How could he possibly not be there on that play? And then when I watched it back on the replay, have a look at it, you can see him grab his shoulder and just come to a complete halt. The game's on the line. His team's going like a busted. They were in front. Very unlike KP to just give up on a play. He must have been hurting.
Yeah. Well, he got belted that game.
Yeah.
Like he was belted.
And I reckon he got belted off screen by Hudson Young too, because it was a weird thing to happen.
Or maybe earlier in the game. What was Dane Gagai blowing up the ref about? Do you know what he was?
That's what I reckon. I reckon something happened with Hudson Young as he ran through that decoy. I'd like if anyone was at the game, reach out to us, because that was very out of character for Dane Gagai.
Yeah.
That was a huge
Did you see that?
blow up.
I was just watching on Fox, and
as in the Gagai blow up.
Oh, Gagai, no, sorry.
Yeah, it's well and truly after the play, and as they're walking back, I've never seen Gagai like that.
Well, and also I was like, I haven't seen anything for him to blow up about that's connected to the try. Like, I'd understand if because I actually went back, because I missed just before the try, like literally that 2-minute period or whatever, and then I saw the try, and I actually went back and watched it, because I was like, something must have happened in the play before the Hudson Young one to make Gagai blow up like that. And so, surely he's not blowing up about something that happened 2 sets ago.
Did you notice KP stop and grab his shoulder?
I definitely noticed KP stop because I replayed it over and over because I was like, where is Kalen? And then I saw that it's basically the tough thing for Kalen is that he was on that short side because they were going the short side. So he made the right play. So a lot of people are going to be like, oh, positionally, shit by KP, all that kind of stuff. But he made the right play because Hudson Young did go down that short side. He then stepped back in, went, I think, back around the ruck.
Yes.
He went back around the ruck, which is interesting, back around the ruck, and then that's when KP just went like that. And so I think KP thought, oh, like, there's no way he's going to kick. Like, he's not going to grab her. And he thought, oh, fuck, my shoulder's killing me. I can stop. I can rest. And then, boom, Hudson Young.
But even knowing KP, the sort of competitor, for him to stop at all, he must be banged up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Whether he thought Hudson was going to kick or not, if he's going right, your fullback isn't going to stay on the tram line on the left-hand side. So I reckon it's worth keeping an eye on him. Reece Walsh is in jersey 22. I think it's definitely worth keeping an eye on.
And that's what I want to talk about with the extended squad. That's a very interesting selection. Very interesting selection because he's already been in camp. So that experience, anyway, we'll get to it. But yeah, for KP, man, I'm a massive fan of KP. Like, I know as a superstar, you're going to have a polarising effect. I get all that. But I'm a huge fan of him. He rips and tears every game. He constantly gets head high. He constantly gets late shotted. And he still hangs in there and tries to... I mean, he's the bloke that got them back in the game in the first place. Or was a huge part in it. So, yeah, hopefully KP's all right. The positive for the Queensland, even though they won't be thinking about this, they can at least sit there and go, look, are we going to risk KP, like, long-term when we have Suncorp, Reece Walsh is a fucking gun player. They have the luxury of maybe going, look, it's not worth the risk. Whereas I feel like if it was game 3, they're like, mate, I think KP as well would be like, mate, I'm playing. Like, fuck, I'm playing. So, yeah, hopefully KP's all right because he's, I reckon he's a superstar. So on Cobbo.
Yeah. Just been some live on air recapping and watching it over again.
Yeah.
And Ponga absolutely had to be there for that Hutto kick.
Yeah.
He plays the short side. But even, as you said, when he comes back around the ruck, just does it so slowly and just trying
stops like that.
Stops and grabs his shoulder.
Right shoulder. And that would have been his right shoulder that I reckon Hudson's made contact with on the play before.
But he had to even be a presence there because
sure.
if he's there, he doesn't kick it.
Absolutely. Like, sorry, to be clear, like, fuck. As a fullback, that's your job. You get on your bike. Like, as soon as it goes the other way, you fucking go. But to Guru's point, he was injured. He's absolutely injured. Like, he stops and he goes like that straight away. But yeah, look, he must have been banged up to stop like that.
Hudson went in front of the play the ball too.
He went in front, not behind. Okay,
so that was play on.
Interesting. What a play by Hudson Young though. Holy shit, mate! He's been outstanding for weeks. Outstanding. Now, Valentine Holmes, mate. Talk about the return of vintage Holmes. Goes to the NFL. And fair play to him. Like, I get as footy fans, you know, we want these guys to stay in rugby league because we love rugby league and we want it to be the best it can be. I understand that. But I'm also a big supporter of people just going against all odds, win or lose, just chasing a massive dream or it might even just be a challenge, you know, to just try something that you never thought would be possible. So I love that he went to NFL and like, okay, did he make it? No, he didn't. But I love that he gave it a crack. Comes back. Now, I personally thought that he would essentially slot straight back in after about 6 months. It took a bit longer than we thought it would, which I was surprised at. But we're looking at vintage Holmes right now. Like, he's playing as good as he played before he left. And it's just, like, right now, he's only 26 years old. He's only 26 years old. I thought he was like 30. Like, he's still got a whole chapter of rugby league. And he's already done so much. Like, think about how much he's already done at Origin and in Australian level.
He's won a comp too.
Yeah, won a comp. Yeah. Big reason for it too. He was outstanding that year.
Well, yeah, I think him and Jack Bird, like the amount of money they were paying them, but what they were getting out of them, that was huge. For
massive, massive. So massive congratulations to Holmes. I think he's been outstanding. I will say Gagai's club has struggled a little bit. Last couple of weeks, his defence hasn't been up to it, but we all know Gagai gets up for Origin. I will also say last game 1, Gagai did miss quite a few tackles. So it almost might be actually a good thing for Gagai because we still got the win, but he played poorly. So Queensland coaching staff, I would assume, and I haven't spoken to Smithy about this at all, so this is an inside info. I'd assume their coaching staff is going to, have high standards and be like, Dane, you missed, get up here. He missed
Fuck, I
9
hate
tackles.
This conversation. Listen to a Queensland.
I know.
Because you know what he's going to do next game.
Yeah.
Fucking game
So he
on.
missed 9 tackles last game. And that's a game. I'm pretty sure that's a game high.
God, I hope he's not listening.
Yeah, that's a game high. And so Dango Guy's going to be fucking frothing at the bit to get that one back. And if there's anyone to bring it at him, it's obviously the Queensland coaching staff. So hopefully he bounces back. Murray To'olangi. Could you let us know in the comments section? I'm unsure whether it's To'olangi or Tuolangi. Please let us know in the comments section. I know someone has left it before, but it's just really hard to remember. I think it's To'olangi, but it could be Tuolangi. So let us know. Murray To'olangi, what a selection. I think he's been outstanding this whole season pretty much. I thought last year there were glimpses of it and his name was thrown in the hat to play last year, but he just wasn't consistent enough. You know, he'd have a game where he'd do it, the next game wouldn't. This year, you could mount an argument that he's been one of the more consistent wingers in the comp.
Yeah, after like his first 10 first-grade games, you sort of thought he's a guy that could play 40 first-grade games or he could play 200.
Yeah.
Like it really could go either way. And I think he's been sensational for the Cowboys. And, I mean, I think it helps that Val Holmes is obviously going to be on his edge and they've got that combo at club level. But I personally think even if you take out that combo, he's played well enough this year to earn a spot in that Queensland side.
Yeah, look, I probably still would have gone Corey Oates, but that may be because of my Broncos bias. Because watching games for the Broncos, as a Broncos fan, the amount of times Corey Oates has got us out of trouble with a hectic catch coming out of his own end. But I'm happy with either or. Like, I think both have been fantastic. And to be fair, Murray, you know, he has a long future ahead of him, so I can understand why you would want to pick him and hopefully build something long. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, exact same as you. I think it could have gone either way with him. Wouldn't have been a problem either way, but they may as well go, all right, he hasn't played a game yet for the Maroons. Let's debut him. He's sort of the future. Not that Corey Oates is old. Like, how old would
27.
Oates?
So he's still young.
So Oates isn't old by any means, but let's give him his chance.
I feel like he's been around forever.
Literally. I remember I was at the Broncos when he first came into grade. Which shows you how long he's been around. He's a totally different player. Like,
Breaking news. Abby Coruscant to start at 9. Damien Cook 14. So, okay. Teddy, Toto, Burton, Crichton, Tupou, Luai, Cleary. Starting props are Haas and Travojevic. Coruscant starting 9. Back row is normal. Murray, Martin, Yo. 14 Cook. 15 Crichton. 16 Balor. 17 Talakai.
so what was the 16? Junior Bolo.
All right, well, that answers that question.
Now, I did pose the question of, because Cook is such a good running game, do you use him the same as Grant was used? But I am still... That's a bombshell. Damien Cook losing the starting spot?
Are we buying it?
Yeah, I'm buying it. Because, it's like, what does it change?
Yeah, but what did it change last game and he made mass fucking changes for no reason?
Well, 2. Cam Murray and bloody RCG. Bro. What do you reckon, Timmy?
I hate it. Appy's not... Damien Cook is a better number 9 than Appy Coruscant in my books every day of the week. That's not knocking Coruscant. I just think Cook is tremendous, and I think he's so important to the way the Blues play. They got beaten at times through the middle last game, and it limited his opportunities a little bit. So much of our attack comes off the back of him running from a quick play of the ball, and then just Teddy feeds off it, the whole side feed off it. And look, it might not change that much because he might have the idea of going, as you said, like Ben Hunt and Harry Grant, where Appy plays the first 25 and then Cook might come on and play 55 straight. So in that sense, it may not change that much. But if it is an Appy playing 50, Cook playing 30, that sort of split that you were talking about, Guru, I don't like it at all.
Man, that is... Imagine making 54 tackles, missing 0, and then getting pushed to the bench.
Jesus.
Wow. I reckon Cook will start. I know you just said he only made 2 changes. He can only make 4. He's only got 4 bench players.
But, what do you reckon the point is in this?
I reckon he's just trying to play... trying to confuse them or whatever. I think Freddie does this. He thinks he outthinks the room sometimes. I love him, but I don't like... it just makes no sense. Like, Appy is such an explosive footballer. Yeah. Why would you not play him for 30 minutes? Cook is the better defensive hooker by a country mile. he's played in the Origin Arena a heap of times. He's done a job for us. Let him do his 50 minutes. Bring Appy off. I'm not buying this.
Okay, well, let's say in a world where it is true, how do you feel?
Yeah, I don't like it. I agree with everything.
What do you reckon, Matty? I thought you shit yourself over there, honestly. I was like, fuck, he's just shit him. It's breaking news. I just shit myself.
Yeah, I'm just as surprised as you guys. I thought Coruscant would be great off the bench. I guess he's probably just gone for those combinations early, but it's a do-or-die game, so it's a huge risk. Yeah,
Mate, it's ruthless. And you know what? We're in a ruthless business, and that's what you got to be to win. But I tell you what, if you're in that New South Wales squad, you must be just going, fuck. Mate, that's a tough. Damien Cook, yes, he had moments where he got out of dummy half and he looked a bit lost, but I still think he did some pretty good things game one. And he made 54 tackles and missed 0. The Cotter made 55 tackles and missed 5. And we were talking about how incredible Cotter's defensive effort was. Damien Cook, in 9, made 54, 0 misses. That's really surprising.
You're not going to beat Queensland the first 50 minutes with attacking plays out of hooker. They're going to, makes no sense to me.
I can see the argument of putting Cook on the bench and just going, mate, when you get on, literally run every time, every single time. Just get out constantly. And that's a tactic that they can use. So I can see where they've gone. Because would you agree Appy is more of a crafty 9?
A lot, yes.
Crafty 9?
Yeah.
Well, Benny Hunt, he's more of a crafty player than Harry Grant when it comes to ball playing in that, I'd say.
Yes.
Do you think they're replicating that one too? Now, I did bring this up with Cameron Smith and he told me, no, you're a fucking idiot. But I'm still going to talk about it.
I'm going to say, no, I'm still a fucking idiot.
I am still a fucking idiot. Smithy kind of felt like they were very different players, all 4 of them, and they didn't have the same setup. But, I do think that you could mount an argument for Cookie is a ball runner. He's explosive as he is the fastest hooker in the game. Appy is a bit more crafty. Maybe they're just going to get through that, build that structure up, and then bring Cookie in. Can you see an argument for that?
Yeah, you can see as you said, a tiring Queensland pack sort of 30 minutes into the game. You can see Cookie coming in and tearing to shreds. So, I get it. It's not like it doesn't make sense to me. I just personally think you've got marginally probably the second best hooker in the NRL or in rugby league behind. I've got Harry Grant ahead of him. And you're playing him lesser minutes than, again, hasn't eventuated. He could still play 50 off the bench and play more than Appy, but I'd have him starting.
Yeah, I personally think Damien Cook, he is a good. I honestly think over the last 2 years, Appy Curacao was a better running 9 than Cook. I really do. I think Cook, probably 2 or 3 years ago, he was incredible. He was doing stuff that we hadn't really seen a hooker do before. But I feel like I haven't seen it in 2 years or so.
What has Cook better than Appy then?
Defensively, I think he is better than Appy, and that's why I would start him for the first 50 minutes and then let Appy come on. Mate, based on what I've seen in the last 2 years, I don't know if I trust Cook. If I say to him, hey, when you get on, you just need to run every time. Because I don't think he has those same sort of instincts at the moment that Appy does.
Interesting. Mate, big call. Wow, that's a big call.
Who would you be more worried about if for the last 30 minutes a hooker stood up with a card in his hand? Who would you be more worried about coming on, Appy or Cook?
Honestly, probably Cookie, in my opinion. I still believe Cookie has that running game in him. I still believe that he has that running game in him.
Cookie's averaging 32, this is not much, but double the run meters of Appy per game this season. Appy, 9 try assists. Good going.
Appy doesn't play 80 minutes though, remember?
No, but he'd be averaging, 65 odd for them. Cook 6 tries, 5 assists. Appy's 2 tries, 9 assists. But also, Cookie's playing behind a pretty underwhelming Bunnies pack this year, whereas Appy behind that Panthers who are just relentless week in, week out. Interesting one.
Have you got average runs per game there?
I can do. Cookie 6, Appy 3. But that can also be a bit misleading as well because the amount of times they get out and give early, I don't know if they'd count that as a run. Like if they have to have come into contact, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Fair.
Anyway.
Yeah, really interesting. Anyway, let's continue on with Queensland side. Fuck New South Wales. I'm just joking. We're going to Tauranga, Munster, DC, obviously. Now, this one's really interesting to me. I actually think that his weekend performance is what got him in the starting spot, because Lindsay Collins was a beast on the weekend against a rampaging Eels pack that was killing it. Collins was like really taking it toe-to-toe with him. But I do think it is interesting that Tino has been moved to 13 instead of starting in the front row and pulling Paddy Carrigan on for 13. I personally probably would have started Carrigan at 13 and kept Tino in the front row because it worked so well game one. What do you guys think?
I anticipated the same thing, and I'm still kind of expecting it to play out that way.
You reckon?
I think you'll see Lindsay come back to the bench, Tino start in the front row, and Paddy Carrigan in the 13.
Yep, I'm with you.
You reckon
I can see that happening for sure.
Yeah. But they didn't last... they didn't make really any changes before the game last time. Like, they named it and they stuck to it.
But I also thought the team that they named made sense to me. This one doesn't make as much sense to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, okay. Do you think that they're going Tino? They could be going Tino in the 13 as like 3 front rowers, and you just
power game
just
early.
power game early, then bring Paddy on? Because in Queensland defence, let's assume that this is the side they're going to go with. Paddy off the bench was something special. And do you want to change that? Because that was a game changer. That was truly a game changer. And they have shown a propensity to pick a better player on the bench because of the impact they have in the game. Harry Grant, look no further than Harry Grant. Most people would have had Benny Hunt at 14. They chose Harry Grant because they thought he would do a better job off the bench.
Yep.
They could be doing the same things with Paddy Carrigan.
Potentially.
And it also... Realistically, it doesn't change much. So Collins plays, say, the first 15, 20 minutes. He's the bigger body on there. Not that Carrigan wouldn't be fine with that. But one thing that they may be thinking, last game, Carrigan came on about the 15th minute and played 65 straight through. Now, I'm not sure if that was always the plan or if the plan was to get him off again at some point and he was so good they kept him on. But by playing him off the bench, it's one substitution as opposed to if he starts... comes off for a spell and they bring him back on. 2 subs in that. So maybe they're just thinking we bring him on off the bench and use 1 sub.
Yeah, it's a good point. And just keep him on there. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, really, really interesting. Really interesting. I will say Lindsay Collins on the weekend, though, was outstanding. Outstanding. Benny Hunt was also outstanding. Josh Papali'i, Kurt Catewell, Felicia Kafusi, Harry Grant at 14. Now, Jai Arrow makes his way back into the side. Now... Some believe Flegler should have been called in. Some believe Arrow. Who would have you selected, Arrow or Flegler?
I would have gone for Arrow. Just big game experience in a game that they could win the series here.
Yep.
So Arrow would have been my pick. And I thought he was unlucky not to be in the side for game 1. It turned out to be the right call. There's no doubt about that. But I think he's an out-and-out Origin player, and he would have been a pretty easy pick for me. Flegler's been going good, no doubt about it. But Arrow would have been my guy.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, I like Arrow. I think Flegler will get his chance, and had he been played off the bench for this, would have been no arguments. But I think Arrow, he's been there, done it, rock solid. He's an Origin player, as Guru said. So
I think Arrow, on form, I would probably have Flegler ahead. But the good thing about Arrow is he can play 13 wide running forward in front row. You could maybe put him in hooker if you were like desperate as anything. But so that's probably got him the win. I will say, do you think our bench is a little small?
Yeah, but I thought that last game tore us to pieces. So.
Yeah, really. I do think Cotter is a massive, massive out. I think it's going to hurt us quite a bit. Jeremiah Nanai, interesting that he's been selected. Not interesting, but, with that ankle, do you think it'll be good to go by then?
It looked fine the other night to me for the Cowboys. Shocked me. A kick went up and he came down with it.
Honestly. Wasn't like 2. He had a try of a kick and then a try assist off a kick.
He set up another one. Yeah, he's a freak.
Fuck me dead, honestly. Look, I agree with you. I think that his ankle is fine. I mean, what's crazy is when it happened, I was like, his ankle is done. Like, he's gone for 4 to 6 weeks. And he's been able to bounce back. So thank whoever's upstairs for that one. Jeremiah Nanai. And I actually think that we haven't seen the best of him in Origin yet because he came on, got injured, and then he came back on later but didn't really get that much footy in him. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, he'll be good to go, mate. Makes sense. They said played a few minutes last game, looked fine, had that injury, and he's still very young, so he doesn't have to play a massive role, but there's an explosive impact in 25 to 30. Good-o.
Now, you got Tommy Dearden still at 18, which I think is really... They've clearly shown that Dearden is probably the next half up right now, which is really interesting. We spoke about it a little bit with last week or a couple of weeks ago, But, Sam Walker, again, not in a squad. Do you think that's more Sam Walker just needs some time to develop defensively? Or do you think it's more they just see Dearden as a guy that can fit the mould better?
I think Walker's time will come. You'd know more than me, but I would assume Smithy and Slater have got a big emphasis on defence going into this series, and Dearden has shown that he'll put his head where most wouldn't put their foot. Dearden. He's always shown a jersey in defence, so I like the pick. I mentioned before that KP grabbed that shoulder the other day. If KP was to be ruled out, do you go with Walsh, or do you maybe move the money man back to 1 and bring in Dearden?
Oh, I think you got to keep Munster at 6. Fuck, I wouldn't be moving that. Too risky. Holy shit.
As a New South Wales fan, he worries me more at fullback. I understand where you're coming from, but in the brief moments we've seen him play fullback, even at Origin level, I think he's been the best player on just about every field I've seen.
After his game last week, you'd move him. After his game
he played very well, but I personally think he's more dangerous at fullback than in what he is at 6, to be honest with you.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
I don't think it matters where he plays fullback or 5'8". He sort of scans across the field, gets the ball when he wants it. I don't think it'd, defensively obviously, and the high balls and all that, but I don't think it'll change too much in attack. Tommy Dearden at 18th again, called before Origin 1 that didn't make sense to me with the team make-up, and it doesn't make sense to me again now. So I'm anticipating that he won't be 18th man come kickoff, because we went through it all before, but there's about 15 different halves they can choose between should things go wrong come game day. So I don't think he makes a lot of sense. There's not a lot of outside back cover there, so I'd expect, say a Reece Walsh or a Corey Oates to come on as that 18th man come game 2. It changed to Jai Arrow in game 1, but I mean, do you think Dearden stays at 18th? Because what's the use, really?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. No, I probably agree with you. I think you're probably going to bring in a Corey Oates at the...
Corey Oates can also play at a pinch
in
if
the
he needs to back row. So I think Corey Oates 18th man.
Probably Corey Oates.
Mate, the guy that probably covers the most positions there, it might be the 20, Bo Fermel.
The big Bo.
Yeah.
He's obviously the least experienced guy, the guy I'm most shocked to see there, but, Corey Oates can play back row. Bo Fermel has played centre and back row at a pretty high click, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It'll be a big call.
He's a good utility, though.
Yeah, he's a good utility to have in your squad.
Yeah.
But massive congratulations to Bo Fermel, because he's been slaving away at the Titans, and is he, as good as some other back rowers, but he battles every single game. Every time the Titans play well, or even when they play poorly, he has a red-hot crack, runs some good lines, solid in defence. It seems deceptively strong. So massive congratulations. And, now the Titans have 2 Origin, I know he hasn't debuted yet, but they've got Fafita when he comes back and Fermo. I think that Titans will gain massively from having him in the Origin system. So congratulations to him. Reece Walsh getting called in, massive congratulations. Be interesting to see whether the...
He's had a really good couple of weeks for the Warriors.
Mate.
Despite them going like a busted, he's been a shining light there.
And that's... I got in my notes, Reece Walsh, he just continues to fight and fight. Even the game's in the balance. Not the game's not in the balance. The game is lost. It is done. They're at the 65th minute, and it seems like the Warriors are kind of just look, the game's over. And Reece Walsh is getting in first receiver, trying anything, something. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't come off. I just love the fact that he competes till the absolute death. So massive congratulations to Reece Walsh. Going to be interesting to see whether he signs long-term with the Warriors. Because right now, he could go to a few other clubs, I reckon.
Yep.
Because he wouldn't be at the $1 million mark yet. He'd be probably around the 600 or 700, I'd say. And a few clubs can afford that. So
get good value at 6 or 7s for him, though.
Yeah, I think so. I think 6 or 7's about what he's worth. I'd say that's a pretty even exchange. I reckon.
But I mean, if you take him and you put it he's been in. They've done well, but he's been in probably the most chaotic system as far as they haven't had a home for 2 years. If you get him for 6 or 7, you put him into, a good system. If it's a 3-year deal or whatever, your last 2 years could be really good value there.
I'm with you, mate. I like what he's done in that Warriors outfit that's been shambolic and had so many things outside their own control go against them since he's come into the grade. He's been outstanding week in, week out. Put him in a better side. I think I'd pay 7 for him for sure. I think he's a star, and we're going to see that in next coming years.
And you have a look at
If we haven't already.
the guys that he's had around him. I mean, he had Roger for a couple of weeks, then Roger left. I mean, the next best player in the back line has been SJ, who hasn't been playing great footy. Like I think that if you can get him around a squad with some experienced outside backs that he can learn from as well, I think it would be a really good signing.
Yeah, I think you're still signing a bit on potential because we haven't seen him actually in a good squad, so we don't know how well he'll go. I still think that, to be landing 600 or 700 grand contract, it's still we've been so deluded by this $1 million mark where, is this player $1 million, this player $1 million, when in reality it's 3 to 4 players. I would, for example, you look at Gutho. Gutho, with all the experience that he's got, he's a captain, he's led that club from wooden spoon all the way into top 4. He'd probably be on around 600 or 700K, I'd say. And that's why I believe Reece around that 6 or 7 right now would be a good deal for both people. But I also agree with you that there is a potential that in the 2 years after that first year, all of a sudden you're looking at massive value.
Yeah.
But the reason why I keep him at around 600-700, because I look at a guy like Dylan Edwards, and I don't think many people would pay 6 or 7 for him, but he's done probably more in the game so far.
For sure, but I think there's also the other aspect to it, especially when it comes to contract, that Reece Walsh, he's going to put more asses on seats than a Dylan Edwards. He probably shouldn't, but he does in reality.
Yeah, I think that's when you start. I think you reserve that for when you start getting up into the $1 million mark. Reece Walsh, for me, although he will put bums in seats, not a substantial enough amount to warrant putting an extra 100K and throwing out your salary cap a little bit. If he were to sign with the Dolphins, do you think he's a marquee? He is that big of a superstar that he's going to build that hype of we're serious contenders here?
At the moment, he might be, but no, probably not. But would Dylan Edwards be?
But
he should be.
No, but he's proven.
Yeah.
Dylan Edwards is proven.
Can you imagine? I do think he'd be a marquee, not for what you said, and I buy into the off-field and bums on seats. Good-looking fella, exciting footballer, youthful coming through. Can you imagine in a parallel universe where Reece Walsh is coming through at the Panthers and Dylan Edwards is at the Warriors at the moment? The numbers Reece Walsh will be putting up.
But that's the thing, we don't know. That's the thing. I know we can assume, and I just think he's so early in his career to be able to call him a marquee signing. He's in his second year of first grade. A marquee signing. Third year
next year, face of a new club, struggling to attract stars.
I don't think anyone's calling him a marquee signing anywhere than the Dolphins, though.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I think he's incredible. He's got everything you'd want as marketable. He's good looking.
Yeah.
He's a nice kid. He's a gun player. He's competitive. He's not just silky. He's actually competitive. I just want to see a year or two more.
Yeah, I think I can speak for Timmy too. We're not disagreeing that 700's where he's at, but I just think if that potential does come through for the next 2 years of his contract, getting him for 700 could be very good value. Yeah,
it could be. It could be for sure. It's really interesting to see what he does because he's in a real interesting spot in his career. It's a real fork in the road because he can go for big bucks somewhere, or he could take a little bit of a pay cut and become everything we know he can become because he's so incredible. And I agree. Give him 4 or 5 years at the right club. I think he can become that marquee, big superstar, change a whole club around. Look how much Munster had to do before he was considered the marquee guy that was, you could put in a club on his shoulders. But really interesting time.
It would have been interesting if he got to play that Origin game last year. I mean, if he would have stood up on that stage, all of a sudden the conversation's different. Yeah.
Well, put it this way, a perfect example is a guy like Kalen. He came in, and I would argue probably had a better first year than Reece Walsh. He nearly won the Dally M. And even he has struggled to really take that next step. Now, he's been at a club that's struggled and all that kind of stuff, and he's also struggled with injuries. So that's where I just get a bit maybe, and actually it's a perfect example because how much did they sign him from the Cowboys? They signed him for 600 to 700K. So I think we're agreeing on the same price, really.
Yeah, and I think that I look at an AJ Brimson.
I think we're agreeing.
I look at an AJ Brimson who went and played that one Origin game, did really well, and I elevate him a little bit more because I know that AJ's gone to the big stages and performed well.
Yeah. AJ's he's another guy that I'm really interested to see. A few guys at the Titans there. Anyway, we'll get into the Titans chat. Anyway, that's the Queensland chat done. Now we're going to get into our team of the week. We've got, actually, this will be the last time for the game. Score prediction.
I'll go New South Wales by 4. It's 20-16.
Blues 26-18.
Matty?
Blues 22-18.
Leave your score prediction in the comments section, and then we will pick randomly, just randomly. So if there's more than one person that gets the correct answer, we're only picking one person. So don't get upset. We'll get together all the right scores, and then we'll give a case away to a random winner. So leave in the comments section what you predict the score to be, and we'll give a case of Bloke beer away to the winner. You must be 18 to enter.
What do you reckon?
What do I reckon? I thought
you were going to backdoor us then. Move on.
No. I was always going to say it. I reckon. I reckon 18-12 Queensland. 18-12 Queensland. Now, team of the week. I had Gutherson at number 1, Suwali at number 2, Holmes at number 3, Shop, who was outstanding, at number 4, Oates at number 5. I had Burton at number 6. I had Amon and Munster there, but I thought Burton was really good yesterday. Hughes at number 7, really tough fight between him and Hunt. Tarpanair at number 8, he just continues to kill it. Coruscant at number 9. Croker at number 9. Bolo at number 10. Lane at number 11. 12 Young. 13 Carrigan. 14 Avarillo. 15 RCG. 16 Croker. 17 Collins. 18 Hunt.
Fullback, I had Gutho. On the wings, I had Brian Toto. And shout out to Joseph Suwali. He's in all 3 of our teams. He's a 19-year-old on the losing side.
Isn't he 18 still?
18, sorry, yeah. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
I had Val Holmes. I had Lomax in the centres. My 6, I looked at the 3 names you had up there. I had Dylan Brown. I thought he was unreal. But those 3 were great as well. There were so many good 6s around this week. Thought Hughesy was massive for the Melbourne Storm. He was my 7. I thought in the losing side, Takiaho for the Roosters. He had a huge crack. Appy was my 9. Tapane in the front row. Hudson Young, and I had Liam Martin. And then I had Isaiah Yeo in the 13. And my bench, I went Lane, Jack DeBellin, Burton, and I chucked in Bo Fermel. I thought he was really good for the Titans in a losing side too.
Timmy?
Yeah, Gutherson at fullback. Wings were Suwali and Marzu. Centres, Lomax and Val Holmes. Halves, Matty Burton, Jerome Hughes. Front row, Tapani and Polo. Number 9, Appy Coruscant. Back rowers, I need to get that one right. Sean Lane and Liam Martin in the back row. Isaiah Yeo with them. Bench, Lockie Croker, Hudson Young, Campbell Gillard, and Mark Nosey Nichols. Impact off
good.
Pine.
Yeah, good. Anyone else stand out for you, Matty?
Player of the week. Losing team was almost Lachlan Croker, but yeah, I think Amon for the Dragons on Thursday. He was outstanding. He was ripped
he removes a little bit like to a vast check for me. Like he's not as, but he just, I don't know, he has that same way he moves. He was really good.
Tell you who else was good that I don't think anyone mentioned. I thought Matt Moylan for the Sharks.
Yeah.
In a game where they sort of struggled, I thought he played well.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%. Now, Dragons v the Rabbitohs. I have some strong feelings about this one. First of all, makes me really happy to see Matt upset. Second of all, look, I understand Demetrio is under enormous pressure and he has to win to keep his job. Like his livelihood is on the line. So I get how tough it is when it comes to making some big calls. But I respectfully, strongly disagree with hooking Ilias after 20 minutes or so. I just think that if he is on the verge of being hooked, if you're already in the mindset of bringing a guy like Taff on the bench because Ilias isn't playing up to what you think, you shouldn't have selected him in the first place. You should just go to him and say, mate, you're not playing the way I want you to. Go back to New South Wales Cup, work on your game, come back. I think hooking him, it sends a really bad message to the rest of the team as well because it's almost like a get out of jail card of saying, oh yeah, he's the problem. Like, oh, it's him. It's the young guy. It's the 22-year-old, 21-year-old trying to fill the boots of a club legend that, in my mind, hasn't been playing that poorly. And I don't think the problems at the Rabbitohs lie with Ilias. And so I get, Demetrio, he may be just trying to send a message to him to get the best out of him and just expect. I just think it was the wrong way to go about it, because now this kid, yes, he has come out and said, I'm going to do my best to bounce back, but you're going to have to be some kind of miracle worker to get that kid's confidence back in a short span of time. You would get more confidence out of him, in my opinion, by sitting him down in the week and saying, mate, you're doing well. We really like you. You're the long-term 7 at this club. But here's where we need you to work on the game. Go back to New South Wales Cup this week. Show us that you want it. You'll be back in next week. We'll put Cody Nikorima in to start, and then we'll bring you back in. Now, all reports are he'll be playing next week. That's what I'm hearing, that Ilias will be back in the 7 next week, which surprises me even more, because it's like you're going to hook him when anyway. What did you guys think about this? I disagree. Respectfully, I disagree with it.
Yeah, look, I think the other thing that flew under the radar as well is that, as much as you said, it's his fault, the players could be thinking that. I think it should be noted, he also hooked Tom Burgess after 15 minutes. No one really spoke about it. He had a shocking missed tackle on, I think it was Jack DeBellin. He hooked him after 15 minutes. He'd missed 5 tackles in the opening 15 minutes or something, Tom Burgess.
But Burgess is a veteran.
Yeah, no, I understand that, yeah. But I mean, no one spoke about it at any point.
Because of this, though?
Yeah, for sure. But I think it should be noted that it wasn't like he only hooked Ilias and he was saying it was solely his fault. I know it has that feel to it.
But doesn't that even accentuate the point even more? It's such a dramatic thing to do. We don't even know Burgess gets hooked.
Yeah, okay. But what I'm saying, I think we should know that Burgess got hooked. I think it should at least be noted that it wasn't like he just went, fuck, we're down 30, Ilias, you come off. He also hooked in their most experienced front rower off the field 15 minutes in. Not saying I agree with what he did with Ilias, but I think it should also be noted. I also think with Ilias, I mean, I said to you a few weeks ago when they signed Nikorima that there are rumours that he doesn't overly trust Ilias, and I think this proves it, realistically. I mean, I think he missed 3 tackles. I would say that he was far from the worst defensive player on the field for South Sydney in the opening 20. It was a pretty fucking hot field.
He dropped the ball off the kickoff, which is like, that should not be held against anyone.
Yes.
Like, how many does he catch? How many does he catch? Then he had a 7 tackle set, which is like every half does that. And he missed a couple of tackles. Is that enough to be hooked? In my opinion, no.
You have a look at the week before. I think he missed 10 tackles. He made 30, and that was against the Gold Coast Titans. That sort of says to me that teams are starting to work out that they need to go at him, though. Yeah. They need to target him. And, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it was fair to hook him when he did. And if he was having second thoughts about Ilias, he probably shouldn't have played this game, which personally I think he has been for a couple of weeks. Yeah, I think it's bizarre if Ilias is back next week. You got to remember, Latrell Mitchell comes back into this side. He obviously likes Cody Nikorima and having his experience on the field. I'm expecting Nikorima to play 7 next week. Okay. If it doesn't, it doesn't make sense to me.
Could you Google and try and find out if Ilias will be back in the side? What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean, pulled after 29 minutes. My whole recollection of that first 29 minutes was that it was just all Dragons, like an ambush like we haven't seen in a while, to be honest. But wasn't it all just Zach Lomax and Ravalawa doing the damage down that right edge, not Ilias' side? Like, he may have had a bit of a hand in one try going through there, but I thought it was all down, not saying it was Cody's fault, but all down Cody's edge. And then Ilias is the one that goes 29 minutes in, like even 11 more minutes, get him to half time and give him a bit of a chance. But, I didn't agree with it.
Yeah. And like, if you get him to half time, you could say, oh no, we always plan to make this change. Like, just protect him a little bit, you know. We always planned, because that's why we have Taff on the bench. We want to put Cody in there. We just think he's going to have some. There's just ways that could have been.
Well, that's the thing that makes it even harder, because you've got Taff. I mean, he took your team to a grand final at fullback last year.
Yeah,
he can play. Like, if you know Nikorima can play 7. If you think that he wasn't up to it or he needed a spell, and that's a good point, that you were only 10 minutes away from half time, where you could have sat him down and said, this is what you're doing wrong. Yeah, this is what you need to sort out. This game's already fucking gone anyway. Yeah. You weren't coming back from 32-0.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And also, that's when you get in at half time and you say all of those things, and if he doesn't respond, then you drop him the next week.
Yeah.
And even like with the Taff situation, like, you know, Taff, as you said, they got to a grand final. I don't think he did enough wrong to be dropped a few weeks ago. I'm very surprised that they didn't give him a few more games to just ease into that position.
And I think this is where it probably shows you that he does edge towards experienced players, having them in there. which is why. Anyway, we won't bring up Adam Reynolds, but would have been handy.
All that being said, and there's a bigger picture to all this in a young halfback's confidence, the Bunnies won 12-0 after he went off. So from a coaching sense, in the game, score-wise, it paid off. But as I said, bigger picture, I think.
Yeah, that's tough because they could have won by more. I feel like the reason, he gets hooked, but the reason they won 12-0 in the second half was not because their halves were incredible. It was because their forwards fucking.
If anything,
right
I thought they looked a little bit more out of sorts, which so they should. Those halves haven't played together. But it's interesting that, and I'm interested to hear what Matty's found, because they've got 2 weeks now until their next game. So they've got 2 weeks to either give Nicarima an opportunity to work with Walker or to give Ilias another chance. But I think that whoever you run out with 7 in the next game, considering you've had 2 weeks to prep for it and there's 10 weeks left in this competition, that probably needs to be who you stick with.
The Daily Telegraph is saying that Demetrio confirmed that Ilias will start against Parramatta the weekend after Origin.
There you go.
So, very surprised. Anyway. Yeah, man, being a head coach, honestly, I would not want to do that. I would never be a head coach in my life.
Even saying it 2 weeks out from that game, what if he changed his mind with Latrell back and at fullback and Nicarima's killing it at training, and then in 2 weeks' time he doesn't name this? You said 2 weeks ago you were picking him, just save yourself the headache.
And do you think that maybe, him, I guess, trying to deflect a little bit, to protect Ilias a little bit? Do you think that maybe Demetrio going, ooh, maybe this is a bit heavy, I'm just going to protect him by saying, oh no, he's going to be on the side, it was just a one-off thing. Whereas if he doesn't confirm that he's going to be back on the side, all the reports are, oh, Ilias is gone, he's fucking...
Well, was that straight after the game, Matty, or is that...
No, this article's from 6 hours ago.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
I didn't see the Demetrio quote, though. It wasn't in the...
What do you think about it as a Rabbitohs fan, Matty?
Yeah, I understand, on one hand, I understood what Demetrio said after the game, we're down by 6 tries, so they needed a bit of spark. Who else are you gonna if you're gonna take someone off, you can take Ilias off. But is it if Ilias is the best halfback at South, then why would you hook him? I don't know. To be honest, I tuned out so heavily that I didn't realise he got hooked till so long after, because I was just sitting there going, this is fucked. And when you notice, I noticed that Taff came on, then Nicarima was playing, they're all. I noticed that happened, but it didn't click that Ilias got hooked until a while after. But when I heard Demetrio's comments, I kind of agreed with his sentiment. We needed spark, but I thought it was it's just going to shatter his confidence. And not only that, the Fox, you look after the game, the Channel 9 or Fox cameras literally follow him down the sideline. He sits down on the bench. Yeah, I reckon it was definitely the wrong move, especially if you're going to just start him again in 2 weeks. If Demetrio thinks he's the best halfback, then I don't understand why he'd hook him.
But saying we needed a bit of spark, again, I have to respectfully disagree. You didn't need spark, you needed grit. I felt they needed grit. And to be fair, they responded to him. They came out, as you said. They played much better in the second half. I disagree with it, but I totally empathise with the position Demetrio was in. And who knows, if Ilias comes out and has a great next 10 games, then it was the right decision. Because yes, it was embarrassing. Yes, it hurt his pride. But maybe that's what he needed to light a fire up his ass. And we're sitting here going, you know what? It was a fucking genius stroke by Demetrio.
They've got 3 weeks to sort themselves out before that round 19 draw kicks off. So, I feel sorry. If Nicarima does end up the halfback in this team,
he's getting the blame.
It's Brisbane all over again. He's got a 5'8" next to him that needs an organising 7 next to him, like he did at Milford. And I
don't understand it, honestly. I don't. The Nicarima one, I think he's a great 14, a really good 14. But this, as you said, we've seen this at the Broncos. Yep. We've seen a great Cody Nicarima being bogged down because he's supposed to be the 6, not the 7. So really, really interesting.
Is it at their point, let's be honest here, their season from the start, it all hinged on the form of Cody Walker. Does he just pick his 7? And it might be Ilias for all we know.
Yeah. Look, yeah, probably. Honestly, I thought they were trying to build. It's tough because they're struggling. It's easy for us to sit and go, they should just stick with Ilias because he's the long-term future. But if you're Demetrio, you're sitting there going, mate, my job's on the line. If we don't get some wins, I'm Gonski.
And that's the thing too. Latrell walks back into this team next week. It's a different footy side.
Yeah, as I said last week, it all depends on Latrell, really. Now it's do or die for him. Because right now, at the moment, I would probably I would bet on them not making the 8. But if there's one man in this comp that could really just the belief he's going to give to Cody and to all the other boys, they're just going to lift around him. Like that's the kind of guy Latrell Mitchell is. He's a generational talent. So I just want to see this next couple of games with Latrell back, and then I'll be able to see where the Rabbitohs really are at.
On Latrell and how important he's going to be, I've said this about the Bunnies for about 6 weeks now and how badly they need his yardage. Running post-contact meters of the back three, the wingers and fullback. I know Cody went into the halves after 30 minutes, so keep that in mind. Cody, 7 post-contact meters. Alex Johnston, 14 post-contact. Jackson Paulo, 25 post-contact.
Wow.
It's like, if you compare that to basically any other team in the competition, but you're looking at that going, no wonder their sets are starting off slow and they can't get any momentum for the attacking players to feed off. Like, they need the Trell's yardage.
Mate, we spoke about it ad nauseum, but they really didn't prepare properly for a post-Dane Gagai. They really didn't prepare properly, unfortunately. Some of the misses there on the edges and the tackles are pretty tough. So hopefully they can bounce back. But on to more positive things. The Dragons. Holy shit. They were outstanding. Like, I'm sitting here going, if they could play exactly how Hook recruited, it would have been like that. Like, it was easily their best game all season, in my opinion. I mean, fuck, they're so tough to get a read on, because a couple of weeks ago I'm going, nah, they're done. Now I'm going, shit, they actually might squeeze into the 8 somehow, some way. Amone was outstanding. Suwali, he's a beast, man. Fuck, Suli, sorry, not Suwali. Suli, what I love about Suli too is he's just been super consistent all year, just getting about his business. It's the one part of his game before that is he consistent? We know he's barnstorming, all that kind of stuff. But he's been consistent as anything.
It's the last thing you thought you would have said about him.
For sure. But he's been super one of their most consistent players. A real good buy for him as well. A really good buy for him. I was happy for Zach Lomax to get 2 try assists, especially that early one. He called, he passed. I was like, that did his confidence a world of good. I thought Andrew McCulloch offered just a better foundation for them in the middle there. Benny Hunt, holy shit, he's so good. What do you think about this for the Dragons? Blake Laurie was outstanding. Actually, I should have put Laurie in my fucking team of the week. He was incredible. Best game of his career.
I reckon if you go back and have a look over the last month, I reckon Jack DeBellin's playing some of the best footy he has in quite some time. Scored a try there that was a good one.
Do you like him in the middle?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I it's so tough because, I think Jack DeBellin's probably the best 13, but I think Jack Bird's best position is 13. I kind of feel like Bird's wasted in this side to some extent, how he's utilised, but I don't know if I could move Jack DeBellin out of that 13 role.
Well, he actually played in the front row on the weekend.
Yeah, but did he?
Yeah.
He got moved there, yeah, but his role didn't really change all that much realistically.
Yep.
Ben Hunt, he's just as soon as that when he put in that kick and it set up for Lomax and he hit Ben Hunt, you could just tell straight away. Like, when the Dragons start well in Wollongong, hard to run down.
Yeah, very hard. What do you think, Timmy?
Yeah, for me, from the word go, the Dragons just came out fired up, and I think they lifted for Macca's 300. Yeah. You could tell. I watched sort of all the pre-game coverage of that one, and they had your boy Jack Reed was down there. They had a lot of, obviously, family and friends.
I think Jarrell, you went down there as well.
Yeah. That were down there and got around it, and you could just see how G'd up the entire squad were from the second they ran out onto the field. That energy, they took it out there and just blew the Bunnies off the park. Yeah. And it was incredible. And I mean, it only ended up being basically probably 30, 35-minute performance from them, but it was so explosive that it did the job for them. We spoke about last week, obviously, before teams were named, that Macca had to be starting 9. They did that, which was good to see, and I think it paid off for them on field. But that was just a side that were like, we are not losing for this bloke's 300th, and it obviously speaks a lot of Macca's character.
Absolutely, yeah. Mac he's a bloody legend. Absolutely loved by the playing group. Him and Benny Hunt have always been loved by the playing group.
Well, what an achievement for him to get to 300.
Oh, mate.
Like, he's just snuck up there. I would have guessed 250, 200 around that mark. To get to 300.
He played a lot of footy consistently for a few years until he did his knee at the Knights, I think. He did his knee at the Knights?
Yeah.
Before that, at the Broncos, he played missed barely any games at the Broncos for a long period. Yeah, you're totally right. what an amazing achievement. 300. You know how hard that is in the middle. So massive achievement. Want to give a shout out to Cody Ramsey, 16 tackles, 0 missed at fullback. You know, you don't often see fullbacks getting up in the 16 tackles mark, and you know, that's if your fullback is making 16 tackles, 2 of them 1-on-1, like that could be minimum 16 points. You know what I mean? Like if he misses 3 or 4 of those tackles, that could be tries. So that's a fair effort, man. A fair effort. He had 6 tackle breaks. He had a line break. He had a try. Look, great signs for the Dragons. Now it's just about backing it up. You know, it's just about what can they do next week to go. You know what? This wasn't a flash in the pan. What do we do?
It's a huge week for them. They play the Raiders, don't they? I'm pretty sure.
The Drags?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dragons play Raiders.
Time, is it? Yeah, right.
So, in 2 weeks' time,
Yeah.
So that game, I mean, if the Dragons win that, like you'd be close to sort of saying the Raiders will struggle to make the 8 off but like that's an important game as far as where they're both sitting on the ladder. And if the Dragons manage to win that, I think they'll play finals footy.
Whew. If they win that game.
Well, mate, when you actually look at the ladder and the teams that are below them where they're sitting, I reckon it'll take them a long way. It'll put the Raiders, I think, 2 wins behind them, won't it?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
The Roosters look so good though, so good on the weekend. The Roosters are outside.
where are
the
they?
8.
Ninth.
They're
at the
9th.
moment? Yeah. And where are the Bunnies at the moment?
Bunnies are 7th. Holy shit!
Mate, the Dragons are sneaking up there before you
Well,
realise.
yeah, the Dragons are 8.
Yeah, and if and Bunnies have got yes, they got the Chalken, but they've got a fucking tough draw coming their way.
Yep. Yeah, so they're a win. So basically, you've got first outright Panthers by 4 points, 2 wins. Then you got the Storm. Then you got the Cowboys. Then you've got the Sharkies and Broncos, Eels, all on the same points. With the order being Sharks, Broncos, Eels. And then you've got Rabbitohs and Dragons on the same points. But then you've got just underneath 1 win behind Rabbitohs and Dragons, you've got Roosters, Sea Eagles, and the Raiders. So like that 7 and 8 spot. I mean, that 7 and 8 spot is going to be carnage there. Like so hard to make because you would have to say, unless the wheels completely fall off, you can almost lock in Eels, Broncos, Sharks, Cowboys, Storm, Panthers. The top 6 probably locked in because they're 2 wins behind, in front of Rabbitohs and Dragons. So that it's almost like a comp in itself. That fighting for the 8th spot.
And the Raiders have kept themselves relevant by Hudson Young scoring on the last minute of that game, and the Manly Seagulls, that loss to the Cowboys, I think that one's going to really hurt them long term.
Oh, mate.
At home, up by 14.
Mate, they win that. I think they're in the 8.
Yep.
Well, points differential, 320. Yeah, they win that. They're in the 8. Ooh.
It was a really important weekend, and then this game in 2 weeks or whatever it is between the Dragons and the Raiders. I think that one's going to be really important to deciding how the bottom of the top 8 shapes up. You look at the Dragons over the next few weeks; they go Raiders, Brisbane, Roosters, Manly. So if Dragons can put together, like if they beat the Roosters or the Seagulls and the Raiders, like depending on who they beat, it could almost end the seasons of the teams they knock off.
It's going to be interesting. It'll be the Dragons, if they make the 8, what a turnaround.
And the Raiders play the Dragons again in round 22 as well.
So it'll probably be between the Raiders and Dragons who's going to knock each other out of the thing. But I mean, I thought the Roosters were outstanding on the weekend. What do you got there, Matty?
I was just going to say, I don't know if you remember, but the preseason prediction, the biggest debate we all had was the 8th spot, and it was Raiders or Dragons.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. We know a bit about footy. How good. Now, on to the next game. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say about McCulloch as well. He played 11 seasons, 21 games or more.
Wow, at hooker.
Far out.
I just wanted to quickly shout out Marky Nichols before we moved on.
Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry.
A few games back from injury, 46 minutes off the bench,
Yep.
basically came on to a side getting decimated. 46 minutes, 166 metres, 2 line breaks, the big boy.
Stop it.
29 tackles, 1 miss. I thought he was tremendous and,
Yep.
and changed everything through
Yep.
the middle of the field.
Yeah, I think when it's interesting, like when the Rabbitohs are going good, and it sounds like obvious, but Nichols is kind of like that unsung. Like there's you got the Burgess at the top there, you got Tommy Burgess, but Nichols leading into that final series was incredible last year, and so they absolutely need him to be killing it, because otherwise they just don't have the go forward, that he brings. And he's not a big body. He's really not a big body, and he fucking kills it.
He screams like a typical. He'll be a good forward under Wayne.
Yeah.
And Wayne leaves and he's still solid, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wayne loves him, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah, I think he'll be good at the Dolphins. I think he'll be a bargain buy. Now on to Manly versus Cowboys. First of all, I want to give the ref credit for listening to Townsend. It would have been very easy if he just go, nah, bro, someone called the challenge. We're going ahead. I really did appreciate the fact that he was willing to go, you know what, I stuffed up. I didn't take it from the captain. Go back. And that changed the game.
Yep.
Like, that could have really changed the game. And also credit to Townsend for being on the ball and also passionately defending his position. Manly versus Cowboys. Look, we'll talk about Manly first. Heartbreaking loss. Like, when we talk about games that you should have won, 7 minutes to go, you're 14 up or something?
Yep.
And then Cowboys just go boom, boom, boom. Game over. And not even like, what I didn't get, so was it like a minute to go or 2 minutes to go, they had a scrum? So
About 90 seconds.
About 90 seconds, Nanai drops the ball and you think, oh, game's over. And then they have a scrum and they try and do a play. I was like, fuck, Manly, just tuck the ball and get it down that end.
Turn it over in that corner.
Drop the ball, boom, try by Holmes. But look, the positive for Manly is like, I think they're showing a lot of fight. Like, yes, okay, that last 7 minutes, obviously devastating. But they're playing better for me than I thought they would after they lost Tom Trbojevic. I personally thought when they lost Tom Trbojevic, they were going to just fall into a heap, and it was going to be one of those years where they jag a win here and there, but they could find no consistency. I actually think they're showing a fair bit of consistency. Garrick at the back has, been outstanding. Also, I know people giving crap to Garrick for getting up in Holmes' faces. I think people are missing, like, Garrick thought that Holmes intentionally slid into his knee. I don't think Garrick was getting up to be like, fuck yeah, I scored, fuck you. I think Garrick was getting up to be like, fuck you, bro, you slid in, hit my knee. But then it got into like this awkward standoff of like not backing off, and that's when it turned into like, yeah, I scored, And look, it's all part of rugby league and that, but I just, that little first bit I think people missed.
It's easy to judge when you got 10 replays at 10 different angles at Fox League compared to Ruben Garrick, who's in the midst of a game. It happened in a split second. He felt contact on his knees. Like
It would have felt like he slid 100%. In and hit his knees. Yep. But when you watch it, he tried to evade it. But that's what happened. He got up to say, fuck you. But then it was two blokes who were like, I'm not backing down. So then it got like this awkward like, but the good thing is adds to rugby league, the poetry of Holmes. He had so much to do on that try. I can't believe, first of all, I can't believe how quick Saab is. To get across that way. But Holmes, he broke the first tackle. They tried to ankle tap him, got away from Foran, broke the Saab tackle, and then he scored with Morgan Harper tackling him. Incredible. But for Manly, devastating loss. But I do think there is hope in their season. I do think they still have a chance of making the 8. Timmy, what do you reckon?
Yeah, going a couple of times about, I love moments where these 50 to sort of 150 game NRL players have their moment in the sun and sort of fly under the radar for a lot of that time. And a month or 6 weeks ago, it was Matty Frawley for the Raiders getting his moment against the Dogs with a stunning performance. I was watching this game, watching Lockie Croker at hooker there, and he just had that 8-minute period where it was just dominant. Everything fell his way. I've followed Lockie for a long time. He's through sort of the Canberra junior system and whatnot, Crookie Green Devils junior. And he came through the grades and always had a fair bit of hype, but he was always a solid player without being a superstar. Always in the halves, couldn't get a crack at the Raiders, went up to Manly, realised, all right, I'm probably not going to get a start in the halves, made the move to hooker, and he has his critics at times and gets knocked here and there, but it was just an 8-minute period where he just dominated at NRL level. I thought, this is one for the grandkids, but now the end of that story is going to be, we lost, but...
Yeah, but because he was the hero. You know what is something funny? Is I had a post ready to go, kick-ons at Croker's. And I had that post ready to go, saved with his stats going. And I had an article written, fuck Croker, he's developed his game so well. They lost Appy, they lost Manu, Fainu. Croker has been built into this hooker, and he had 3 assists, or like 3 kicks that led to a try, whether it was his own or someone else's. And then Holmes turns around and does what he said, and then I have to do the vintage homes post. But
Ruined
that's
his
how,
moment.
mate, would have been a huge moment. Kick-ons at Croakers. Fucking hell.
I thought
No
it was
kick-ons.
crazy doing that. Oh, yeah, the 40-20, the tries and everything. And then, the try that he scored off a kick, I genuinely went to NRL stats to see who kicked it and then went back and watched it. He kicked it himself.
Yeah, I know. Yep. I was the same.
Incredible.
Because I was the opposite. I saw him kick it. But then
Right.
I was like, who scored that? I was like, it was Croker that scored that. How the fuck did that happen? Mate, what a fucking 8 minutes. But, yeah, look, like, they lost, obviously. But Croker's development, man, I got so much respect for him. To go from 6 or 7 and just work your dick off. Like, okay, he's not the most flashiest 9 in the comp. But he's a huge reason why Manly could even go on that run last year. He's a huge reason why Cherry Evans and Tom Trbojevic were massive last year. Massive raps for him.
He's a huge reason why they can afford to pay Tommy Turbo $1 million and DC $1 million and Jake Trbojevic as much as him, and all these big money players, because you can slot in Lockie Croker on whatever he's on as your starting hooker. So you might criticise him, but it's like, well, he's not getting paid $800,000.
Yeah.
So
Look, let's say he's on 200. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, actually, he's playing really well. And I think you're totally right. Like, a lot of fans, they criticise everyone equally of, like, everyone's on $1 million. It's like, we've got battlers in there. If you're doing what Croker's doing on 200K, your contribution, Dylan Edwards is a perfect example. His contribution to Penrith for what he would be on would be outrageous. Outrageous. So, yeah, totally agree, Timmy. What did you reckon, Gurino?
Yeah, I just on that, you obviously had that post ready. Like, everything you said is spot on about him, regardless of whether they won the fucking game or not. Like, everything you said there was spot on. As I said, I think this one would be devastating for Manly. I thought the play, obviously we spoke about Ches, he came off the scrum, they sort of tried to put on a play. Credit to Drinkwater, he got really banged around in this game and struggled to have an impact. He was the one that came up with that shot on DCE to knock the ball free. So shout out to Drinky. And, when you're playing Manly and you're down 10-0 at Brookvale, you shouldn't be able to win early. Then when you're down by 14 with 7 minutes to go, you should never be able to win. Good opportunity for the Cowboys to just show that they can win in different ways. Like, I reckon they would take so much confidence in that. Add into that, they lost Cotter in the warmer.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
That throws everything out the window, and they had every reason to lose that game because Manly played bloody well.
Yeah.
I think Manly beat a lot of teams the other night.
I agree.
And they still managed to get it. So well done to Toddy Payton and those boys.
Just a quick aside, I thought the sin bin at the end there was bullshit. It was like a midfield penalty. Yeah, he was trying to hold him down, but the context of the game shouldn't dictate someone getting sent from the field. Do you know what I mean? Like, why? What? Because it's the end of the game.
Unfortunately, it's always going to, though.
Yeah, I was just like, again, it's a little tiny nitpick.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of like, that's really unfair. You're only sending him off because you think Manly are a chance of levelling this game up. Whereas if it was middle of the game, it would be penalty, boom, get down the other end. So I thought, anyway, little nitpick. Other than that, I thought it was great. There was a Schuster pass that I think went to the deck, and it was a no-looker. These are the little things. It's such a delicate balance because you've got this diamond, and you want to shape it perfectly, but you don't want to chip it, you don't want to crack it. And so he's just in that delicate balance of, like, sometimes you do have to look, sometimes it is just do the 1%er, do the play that's always going to come off. Just do that, and then pick your moments with those looker stuff.
22 minutes. What do we make of that?
The 22 minutes of him on the field.
Schuster played for 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Did anything happen? Did I miss something? Was there
No, I don't think so.
Mate, Davey's just playing bloody good footy.
Yeah. But I think he's so crucial to them. I mean, in saying that, for most of the game, they were ahead.
They should have won, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, interesting.
Good problem to have.
Absolutely. I will say, though, that, like, if he's the guy that is going to be the guy next year, you would hope that he would not be having his spot being battled for this year. You know what I mean? You would hope that he would lock in his spot.
And it's also not like he's just returning from injury. He played 5'8" for 80 minutes 2 weeks ago. So it's not like they're trying to ease him back in. It's an interesting one to watch.
So look, Manly, although heartbreaking, I do think they're still in the fight. They're still in the fight. Cowboys, though, they lose Cotter, and they've got every reason. They're travelling, blokes have played Origin, tired. Nanai's, I'm sure his ankle wasn't perfect. I'm sure he got needled up for the game. What an incredible comeback. What an incredible comeback. And seeing Peyton in this box just getting up, boys, was awesome. I I'm amazed. I cannot believe how good they've become as a club in such a short time.
Yeah, answers a lot of questions. Obviously, they've won a lot of games in Queensland or in North Queensland this year. To come down to Brookvale doesn't get much harder than that.
Rookie's fucked.
Brookie, like a night game too. They're
Heavy
always
track.
up for it.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's a nightmare. And as we said, losing Cotto is massive for them still to find a way to win it.
Yeah.
And it's just so typical Cowboys. If I said to you who was the best player on the field for the Cowboys, you're probably going Holmes, but I thought Townsend was great. I thought Tamalolo was great. Like they're a team.
Yeah.
I thought there was a couple of big plays. The Townsend kick to Val Holmes, just to sum it up in a second.
Yeah.
Foz did the exact same thing to find Tuipulotu for the first try. Just two real experienced plays where you can see for those guys, they've seen so much rugby league that it all just slows down for them a little bit. But yeah, Cowboys there. How far can they go? Are they prelim? Are they a GF team? What do you...
I still have them just a rung below a premiership threat. But I will say this. I do believe they've put themselves in a position to become one in the next 10 rounds. I'm a bit hesitant to go, are they on the same level as Penrith and Melbourne? Now, some might say, well, they towed Melbourne up. Yeah, fair enough. I'll pay that. But Melbourne at their best, Penrith at their best versus Cowboys at their best, I still think they've just got a little bit more time to go, which is, it's incredible that we're saying this. Incredible. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, on that, I've still got them the rung below Penrith and Melbourne, 2 rungs below Penrith because everyone is, and just below Melbourne provided everyone's fit. But they're just developing this winning culture, aren't they, where we saw it on the weekend. They had no right to win that game. They somehow found a way to do it. They're doing it a bit like Brisbane, who we'll get to shortly, where I know Brisbane didn't win, but themselves...
Oh, we won. Yeah. We won, bro. In the hearts and minds of the fucking punters, we won.
And it's these question marks over how they handle the grind of an origin period with lots of players out. And as you said, they've come down to Manly, Brookie Oval, and come back and won it and ticked another box in terms of, all right, job done, origin, easy, we can handle that.
If they met they're third at the moment, I think to give this competition a real shake, they need to be first or second come finals time. If they can drag someone up to North Queensland week 1, that could really turn it. Now, in typical Bloke in a Bar fashion, we spoke about Leilua for 15 minutes as soon as we stopped recording last week. He moved up to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That's a big in for them.
Oh, bro.
He could be a juggernaut up there.
Mate, I think he will be a juggernaut up there. It's scary to think the power they're going to have on the edges with Nanai on one, Leilua on another. You could mount a case for that's one of the better combos in the game. Now, not experience-wise, but on their day right now, like Nanai, some of his shit he does. What I love about Nanai is he's so unique. He's got this really unique flavour about him. Like, does he get through a lot of the crazy carrows? Like, sometimes, but not heaps. Is he a crazy line runner? He has it in him, but it's not his signature. But there's kicking. How the fuck is he always there at the right time? And it's constant.
They reckon that when he was, and I hadn't seen a heap of him, but they reckon when he was coming through, it wasn't a big part of his game either. It's just, isn't it crazy with this Cowboys side? You get Nanai, he shows what he can do. He plays Origin. He goes to Origin. Lukey steps up, shows what he can do. He gets injured. Lume comes in.
Yeah. He's been great too.
There should be a lot of teams sniffing around for him. He can play centre, back row. He looks destructive as all hell. He could be a real bargain buy.
He could actually even be a really good 14 because the impact he's had off the bench recently has been phenomenal.
Because I don't know if he's going to be in this team now that Leilua walks in.
Yep.
They've still got Tommy Gilbert there, so he could fall out of this 17. I hope he doesn't, but fuck, there's some teams that could do with a guy like him.
Yeah, no, he just finds a way to the trial, and that's 2 games in a row off the bench he scored. Look, exciting times for the Cowboys. Really, really exciting.
I want to just make one more point that just sort of things that tick over and you see during a game, and it was Tabuai Fido's his put down for a try there, and it just got me thinking about left and right edge plays. And for probably lesser footy fans who listen to the podcast and don't live and breathe it as we do, when we talk about players and why they can't play the other edge and whatnot, Hammer had a try there. It ended up being disallowed because of a forward pass, but because it tends to be more left side, he was playing on the right edge and went to put a ball down in the corner with his left hand. I can't remember who it was coming across in cover, but just slapped his arm down and he dropped it.
Yeah.
For any other right side specialist wing in the comp. They just do that big looping dive, put it down, and they don't get close to being stopped.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Oh, mate, it's massively. Like, there is no way in hell I would be able to hold a footy in my left hand, because I'm not left-handed. Even getting hit here, I'd drop it.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard enough on this hand. So, yeah, it's a great point.
Well, it's happened to Jordan Rapana on a number of times, I've noticed over the years.
Yeah.
I never understand why Ricky does it to him. It matters.
Yeah, he's probably the only person that can play a little bit of both, and they're just hoping that he doesn't get put in that position. But yeah, look, congratulations, Cowboys. What an amazing finish, and there is something so special up there. And right now, for me, Todd Payton is a lock for Coach of the Year, in my opinion. An absolute lock. Right now, that may change. Start of the year was probably Craig Fitzgibbon for me. But now, like, Sharkies were, they were 8th, 9th, 10th. They were already around, and now they're pushed into the top 6. The Cowboys to go from 15th all the way to top 3 and only a 1 win away from the Storm at 2. Toddy Payton, he's incredible. What an amazing achievement by him.
If the Cowboys would have finished 11th, I would have said that's a successful season.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. They're in the top 3, and what I love about it, it's not a fluke top 3 of they've strung some wins together against like bottom tier teams. Like, they've gone out and played teams that have played extremely well and got the job done, and it's the way they're doing it as well. Like, they do remind me a lot of the Storm, not in the style of play, but the fact that sometimes you can watch a game and there's no like out and out superstar that stands out. There's just a lot of players playing really well. For many years, you watch the Storm play and you'd look at the stats, and the stats would be evenly distributed across all the players, and the Cowboys seem to be doing something similar.
Cowboys Broncos.
Whew.
Round 16, that is going to be a cracker.
How good is it that that's back?
Yeah.
How good is it that's back? Now, let's get on to the next game. Storm vs Broncos. I am remiss to talk about this because I'm clearly biased. But even over the whole weekend, I thought there were so many forward passes that I was getting in conspiracy mode. I was like, are they intentionally letting forward passes go to usher in the new technology? Because it felt that obvious. Now, again, I want to be clear. I understand I'm biased because the Broncos, but I have to be honest. I don't think that Kamika's try was a try. I thought he knocked that on before he grounded it. I thought at least 2 of their tries were clear forward pass. I thought the Nick Meaney one was like literally 2 or 3 metres forward, and I thought the Olam threw a forward pass. Now, that does not mean Broncos would have won the game. That does not mean it. I thought it was a great, cracking clash that was super even. But I did think that really dampened the context from a Broncos supporters fan perspective, because I do think that we got some really tough calls. Now, let's be fair, I'm sure that there were other small calls that Broncos got that Storm maybe should have got, but I just saw it in big moments. The Olam one and the Meaney one, I thought they were really clearly forward. So that was dudded. Now, it doesn't mean Broncos would have won. And it is a bit dampened, but I'm nearly just as happy because I was so proud of the boys' effort, and they proved that they're right up there with the best of them. What did you guys... Am I crazy and biased, or did you feel that there were some rough calls?
I think you got unlucky in moments. I think you'll agree. I still think the better team won. But I can understand where you're coming from. The forward pass thing, I don't know. You texted that to me the other day. I had to put my phone down. I thought, I don't know. We're getting into dangerous areas
Mate,
here.
honestly, but not just that game. There were numerous games with crazy forward passes that you were going, what the hell? I think there was was it a Sharks one that was just like wildly forward, and the commentators were going like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, it's a bit tongue in cheek, but.
Oh, I thought Brisbane though. I thought Melbourne played really well in this game, and you hung in the contest. Gee, some of the guys you brought in went well. Tyrone Roberts.
Yeah.
I cannot believe the amount of times he does not have a club.
Yeah.
He's not a Premier 7, I get it. But if you have an injury in your halves, to be able to bring him in, he can do a job. He has done a job everywhere he's been, whether it's Newcastle, Gold Coast. Came in and played for the Indigenous All-Stars a few years ago, and everyone went, why the hell is he there? He got man of the match. He absolutely brained it. I thought some of the stuff he did for Brisbane the other night was really good. I almost didn't recognise him with the shaved head. Took me a minute to work out who he was, but I thought he played really well. Branko Lee at left centre, I thought he did a good job too. You saw Corey Oates get 2 tries, and I thought Branko was great. Distributing the ball out there. Yeah, it's a loss, there's no doubt about it. But you've won 7 in a row. If that's the one you lose.
Down in Melbourne.
Mate,
I totally agree. And yeah, I'd agree. I'd probably say Storm were just the better side. Like, I think a more accurate representation of the score would have probably been 24-20, something along those lines.
I mean, insane. Yeah, go.
Like, even the Munster one, where he didn't have his foot down. They showed the replay.
Yeah, that was bad.
And they still gave him the kick at goal. And as a Broncos fan, you're sitting there going, like, come on. Anyway, it's all good.
In saying that, you did it without your halfback, Adam Reynolds. If you take the halfback out of Melbourne, I thought he was the best player on the field, Jerome Hughes. I thought he was incredible.
He was amazing.
He was that last try where he just kicked for himself.
I really do think that the halves were the difference in this game.
They were, for
I
sure.
thought the forward, like I said to Smithy on the captain's run, I said, like, this is a real opportunity for Broncos' young forward pack to go, are we really the big deal, or are we just a bunch of young kids that are decent at footy, beating bottom tier teams? This is a real opportunity for the Broncos forward pack to go down to Melbourne and go, this is the cream of the crop. Them and Penrith, but Melbourne's up there as well. Let's see how well we can go. And I honestly reckon, at the very minimum, the forward pack cancelled each other out. I thought they were as good as each other, and the Broncos forward pack can safely say that they are currently, it may change, they are currently one of the best forward packs in the competition.
Yeah, I agree, mate. It's crazy where they've come from.
I know, it's wild, eh? Wild. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, you boys covered most of what I had to say, and Kemp, I don't want to cut into your Broncos time, so I'll be short, but it was, mate, everything from drone...
Don't give the punters any ammo. They'll be like, all you do is talk about the Broncos.
I'll just let you go and check my emails from it. From Brisbane to go down to the toughest road trip in rugby league, Melbourne in Melbourne, it's as hard as it gets. Obviously Penrith in Penrith is now about in the current day, but to tick that off and be so good with Adam Reynolds out, other key players missing were tremendous. One of them ones that you say you take more out of a loss than you could of a win at times, and that'll do them so much good knowing that they can match it with Melbourne down there going to the back end of the season. And Melbourne just... Every time I'm watching Melbourne play and seeing how good Jerome Hughes is for, like, what more does this bloke have to do to be talked about in the top echelon of players in the game? Because every time he's out, Melbourne's struggling. Every time he's in, they're just winning games so comfortably and just looking like a perfect unit.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And last year we said, like, we believe Hughes is a top 3 player in the NRL. We believe that he's definitely a top 3 half. And I think people are slowly starting to go, oh, we need to take this guy seriously. But one thing I do feel for Kiwis and some of the Polynesian boys that don't get to play Origin is that unless you play Origin, you never really get put in the same echelon as the Origin players. And I think Hughes is a perfect example of that. If he was playing Origin right now, yes, he wouldn't be as good as Cleary. But I think there would be a subset of people that would go, you know what, I will pick Hughes over Cleary. Matter of fact, Bellamy's already come out and said, I understand he's his player, but he's come out and said, I would not trade Hughes for any 7 in the game.
Keep in mind, this is a fullback converted half, who you probably initially had as like a ball running 5'8" with his background as a fullback. He's playing as a match game organising halfback.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And I mean, you said, because he doesn't get to play Origin, which I agree with. He hasn't got to play international footy for 2 years either.
True.
Like, that's another avenue where he could have stood up on a bigger stage. He hasn't been able to. And if you want to know what Jerome Hughes is all about, go and watch the try that Ezra Mam scores. I can't remember how Billy Walters got the ball, but he makes a break. Jerome Hughes comes from the other side of the field and runs it. They ended up scoring anyway.
And they looked at it. I was like, how are you calling that no try when there was a knock-on in the first try right in front of you and the other one looked like a knock-on, but you pull us up? Fuck! I know I'm biased, guys. Apologies, but...
Back to Jerome Hughes. It was a great chase, though.
It was just like, are you serious? Like, who in there? Like, did anyone think that wasn't a try? Did watching it seriously?
No.
Anyway, no, but you're right. Like, he does that constantly. Every single week he does that. I will say, like, when we talk about guys that, we talked about Reece Walsh earlier about marquee signings. I do think Hughes, although he doesn't have the marquee, brand or whatever. when it comes to building a club at the moment, like you can go much worse than building a club around that bloke because he's that good right now. I thought it was really interesting. A couple of days before the game, Hughes' manager came out and said the Broncos balked at Hughes' asking price, and that's why they went with Reynolds. I'll give my thoughts on that. What do you think about the fact that Broncos may have been able to get Hughes?
Yeah, it's a tough one. As much as I love Hughesy, we still haven't seen him outside of that system. And I think I'd be wrong about that. I think he would do well. But Adam Reynolds, I just think he was exactly what Brisbane needed. And I think they probably would have got Reynolds less than what you probably would have got Hughes for coming to the back end of his career and worries about injuries and stuff. But Hughes could have been great, but I think Reynolds has been perfect. And I think it's more evident how good Reynolds is when he's not there, just the impact he's had on your squad.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, look, argument that we don't need to probably go into too much because they didn't get Hughes, they got Reynolds, he's killed it, they've got every bit of value they could have ever asked for, and Hughes is still in Melbourne, and as Guru said, I'd love to see him in another system and see how he goes. It'd be really interesting, and that's why the World Cup is going to be so exciting for so many reasons. Even the rep round this weekend is going to be fantastic. Can't wait for it.
Isn't it crazy with the Melbourne Storm? Like, you look through their entire franchise, they open with Brett Camorley at halfback. You know, he won a Clive Churchill in that grand final. Straight after him, they went to Matt Orford, who did well at Melbourne, but then left and won a premiership, won a Clive Churchill. They went straight into Cooper Cronk, who was a winger. He played for 15 years. Now they've gone straight into Jerome Hughes. They've essentially had 4 halfbacks for their entire franchise, all that have been very successful. Only one of them didn't win a premiership, which was Matt Orford. He left and won a premiership, beat Melbourne in a grand final. 2 years later, you've had like your half a season of Brodie Croft and other guys here and there, but they've essentially gone, 99 to now with 4 halfbacks.
Crazy. So good. Just quickly, Bloke jumpers, 6 p.m. Wednesday. Make sure to set your alarm, guys. They've got black, we've got brown, and we've also got trackies. Limited amount. Once they're gone, we aren't restocking these colours for at least another year. So make sure to be there. But my thoughts on the Hughes-Reynolds situation, I just think like Reynolds was the perfect guy for it. We needed an experienced guy that's been in in NRL for a long period of time, playing at half. And so I actually think they got the right man. But it doesn't mean that I think that, Reynolds is currently playing better footy than Hughes. It's just when the situation the club was in, we needed an old head to like guide us through that transition phase. So, but yeah, it was an interesting little tidbit for the game. Anything else with the Storm? Look, I thought Munster was good again. Look, it was a great, you know what? It was a great game of footy. It was a fucking good game of footy. Really high energy. Every time, Storm turn the screws up and they start getting that real fast-paced footy, it's almost impossible. They tear you apart. It's almost impossible to stop. Harry Grant was good again. Look, great win by the Storm. Great win by the Storm. Is there anything else you guys saw in that game?
No, I think I'm done and dusted for that one.
I thought Olam was really good. I thought he really took it to Stags. I really loved that battle.
It's a good little matchup, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Very aggressive in each other's face. I probably would say Olam probably won that battle. He had 2 try assists, 176 metres, 83 post contact, 10 tackles, 2 line break assists and on offload. Olam was great. Look, congratulations to Storm. They march on. Nelson off the bench in 31 minutes, 100 metres, 14 tackles, 0 missed. I will say one really good thing with the Broncos as well is missed tackles-wise, Stags missed 0, Lee missed 0, Selwyn missed 0. Like, that's pretty good in your backs to have your backs missing 0 tackles when it's so much space around.
Especially guys that are coming back from Origin and guys that haven't been in first grade for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
I wasn't going to bring it up because we've touched on it. I was watching the Channel 9 coverage and the Dean Jeremiah try, and it had Freddie Fittler in commentary.
Yep.
And Stags had a really poor read for one of the tries, and Freddie was really critical about it in commentary.
Really?
And I'm just sitting there listening to it going,
Far out. Yeah, wow. Interesting. So, look, congratulations, Storm. Great win. It was a great game of footy to watch. And, a shout out to Roberts. It's just, what he did it with, too. Think about the spine the Broncos had. We had Walters, Ezra Mam in his, 4th game or so, Roberts, and Tomato Martin. pretty impressive, man, for Roberts to lead that around.
No, 100%. And I mean, we speak about it all the time about that Queensland Cup Grand Final that Selwyn Cobbo played last year and how well he did, and he still lost that game. He lost that game because Tyrone Roberts was leading around the North Devils.
Yeah, yep, for sure. Yep, absolutely. Now, on to the next game. Sharkies v. the Titans. Sharkies get the win 18-10. Look, really important to get this win, but I'm still... The Sharkies are just... They're not continuing on the trajectory where I thought they would be. I thought their outside backs were outstanding. I think the least that they ran for was 117 metres. That was Mulatalo, but he still had 6 tackle breaks. Katoa again, mate, he might be the most underrated winger in the comp. Katoa might be the most underrated winger in the comp. Every week he puts up big numbers, 173 metres, 56 post contact, 7 tackle breaks, a line break and an offload. Katoa is a gun, doesn't get talked about enough. What did you think about this game, Timmy?
Yeah, look, probably not the most exciting game of the round to get into, but it was... The Sharkies, just can't put a finger on them at the moment. They're like... They have these... They haven't had probably the standout game where I've gone, you know what, even if you poor the following week, you've shown you can match it with the best. They've had some good games this year, but where I go, all right, you're even sort of top 4 contenders, and I'm comfortable in saying that, like we do with Para every second week. Like if the Sharks, with no disrespect to the Titans, but if the Sharks are going to be a top 4, top 6 force and shake up finals footy at all, I just think they need to be winning a dry day game like this that is perfectly tailored towards their brand of footy. And look, they got the job done. They got the 2 points. There's plenty of time left in the season to work on any things that need fixing. But they're not selling me. And on the flip side, the Titans, who have had a tough year, you probably look at them and go, all right, they turned up, had a crack, played some decent footy, and if a few other things went their way, they could have snuck away with a win. So good from the Titans. Sharkies, unconvincing.
Yeah, really interesting times at the Sharkies. They've come so far, but 68% completion. 68%. Like, that's always going to hurt you. They had also 56% of possession of the ball. So it's tough because, like, you go, well, look, they fixed that and they probably score far more tries. But it's just, they still can go on a bit of a run, and I think they can find it together. But I think it may be a case of too much too soon, in the sense that I can't see them going from out of the 8 into a genuine top 4 this year. And I think it's going to take another 6 months or so just for everyone to buy in to Fitzgibbon's game plan. What did you think, Rena?
I reckon you could have walked into this change room after and had no idea they won the game of football.
Yeah, they looked down.
I didn't see, but I reckon they would have been. I heard Nico Hines talk after the game and he was filthy.
Yeah, really?
He was not happy.
Wow.
So, and
good.
Rightly so, mate. They led 10-0 against the Titans, and credit to the Titans for hanging in there, but they should have gone on with this one. They really should have. I mean, that's pretty much their best 17, isn't it? Because Dale was back in the side. Like, that's... I don't know. Was it almost too good, too early? Did it maybe come too easy to start the season for them?
No, I still reckon that they're much better than last year.
I heard Timmy say before, and you're right, there's a long way to go, but every week there's less and less of a long way to go. Like, we're not that far away from finals footy now. We're 10 games away, realistically. Like, it's not that far. And if they want to compete for a comp this year, I mean, it's not games like this that I'm worried about. It's they have to start to get to the level of the Cow, not even Melbourne and Penrith, but I would expect them, based on how they started this season, the players they've got, to be in the same realm as the Broncos and the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And for me, they're just not at the moment.
Yeah.
And very few excuses for them, as you said. They're getting close to a full-strength side. Next to no Origin impact for them, like other clubs are getting decimated by. They'll lose Sifa for this one, or even then, they don't lose Sifa for a game. He'll just be on Origin duty. So it's like, you can't make up excuses like you could for other clubs.
And like their biggest problem at the moment is fitting all their guys in. They're trying to work out where to fit Wade Graham in this side.
Yeah.
Fafita's not in the team at the moment. Connor Tracy's not in the team at the moment. Ikavalu's not in the team at the moment. Like, there is no excuse for why the Cronulla Sharks should not be giving it to the Titans in perfect conditions for them.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. I do think they've really missed Brandon Hamlin-Uele.
That's their one injury, to be fair.
I think he was the rock of that. Like, all their good form was off the back of him, really. But, Royce Hunt did step up. He had 168 metres, 71 post contact, 10 tackles. So, Sharkies, the good thing is the early season form has put them in a position to be able to have a few games like this, have a little bit of a lull, and then go on again.
Yeah, and I also thought in this game, I think it was Katoa's first try. It came off Marcius throwing an offload that went back into his in goals. Like they got an easy set off the back of that. I thought that the try that Moylan scored, like the defense was just, it was just passengers there, and it was the only moment where the Titans. It was the only moment throughout this game where the Titans looked really poor like that. But that was 2 of their tries.
Yeah.
And they won by 8 points.
I know, yeah, absolutely. So hopefully the Sharkies can bounce back. I still think they're in the running for sure. They're probably not a top 4. They're definitely not a top 4 side right now when it comes to when you compare them how well the Broncos and they are technically a top 4 side. But I just think right now, if you're going to compare them to Broncos and Cowboys, I would probably have them just below them right now, even though right now they're sitting 4th.
The other thing I worry about with the Sharks, and it seems like a small thing now, but as you get to the back end of the season and finals footy, they need a goal kicker. Nico Hines, I think he kicked 2 from 3 on the weekend, but in the weeks leading up to that, he's got a 1 from 7 in him sometimes, Nico. Like his goal kicking has been, and I don't know if they've got a better kicker in the squad. I think Hines is a good kicker, but he gets close on a lot of them. But they're leaving a lot of points out on the table of goal kicks.
Yeah, interesting times for Sharkies. Hopefully they can bounce back. The positive is they put themselves in a position to be able to have a little bit of a doubt thing, and that's all them. So they deserve a rap for that. Going to be interesting going into finals time. Now, Titans. Look, obviously tough loss. They're currently, I think, last by themselves on the bottom of the table. This is a tough one because I thought they showed a lot of grit for a lot of the game. I thought they throw a lot of toughness in defence, but it still is just nowhere near where they should be.
For sure, but for the last 2 months, if the Titans go down 10-0 against the Sharks in the first 15 minutes, they get done by 40.
Yeah,
they hung in the contest. At least there is silver lining here.
Yeah, but that's my sentiment. Is they showed grit, they hung in there, but they are a lifetime away from where we thought they would. Like, who would have thought that we'd be sitting here mid-season going, "Oh, thank God they hung in there." What do you reckon about the Titans, Timmy?
Yeah, as I said, gritty enough and a pretty good performance from what we've seen from them this season. But the fact that they've lost a game by 8 points against an underwhelming Sharks outfit, you're sort of going, oh, it's grim that it's come to that.
Yeah.
Bo Fermor, as I said, rewarded with that Queensland call-up, and he's been tremendous for them all year in a really battling side. Yeah. Particularly what he's doing in attack. Look, he's busting the line all over the place. Yeah. So showing a bit of toe in him as well, yeah.
Bo Fermor has been a shining light in a tough year. Tino obviously has been. The amount of work this bloke gets through for that squad, he is even if he's on a big contract, he's still underpaid. Like, he rips and tears constantly. 190 metres on the weekend. 4 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, 34 tackles, 20 runs, 92 post-contact metres. What a fucking knock, honestly. And the thing that I guess is, it's disappointing for Titans because when you look at this and you go, okay, Tino has run for nearly 200 metres. This is what the rest of the four... Obviously, you've got Bo, who ran for 169 metres, but this is the rest of the 4-pack. 60 metres, 94 metres, 59 metres, and 52 metres. Fodawaker came off the bench and ran for 100 flat, but then outside of that, it's 57 and 58 metres. Oh. And so I just think that the forwards around Tino have really got to take some inspiration from him and be like, we're going to go with you, Tino. We're going to go with you. I agree. I totally agree with what you're saying, though, Guru. They showed a lot of grit in defence, and things weren't working for them, and it's not working for them right now. But I just think that sometimes when Tino's getting through all this work, it should inspire the boys to get up and fucking rip and tear. I'm really... Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. Look, Greg Marzu, he was a beast. He was a beast outside of, I think he had 1 error.
He had that offload that went back in the end goals.
But that first try he scored, holy shit. I thought that was a great ball from Paul Turner. So he's showing, glimpses of class. Look, a concern is both of their halves. You know, Turner missed 6 tackles, Sexton missed 7 tackles. Pretty tough on the edges if you're going to be missing that many tackles. Now they're not the first halves to miss a fair few tackles, but it does get tough. I think they can take positive out of they showed a lot of grit. That's the positive they can take out of it.
Yeah, it's definitely more grit than what they've shown the last few weeks, which is improvement, and that's what we want to see from this young side. Any improvement we can get out of them is for the better. I thought it was good that finally someone else put their shoes on and helped Toby Sexton with the kicking game.
Yep.
Turner had, I think, 4 kicks. Herbert put in 2, and AJ Brimson had 1 as well. So still majority Toby Sexton, which it should be, but it shouldn't be entirely up to him.
For sure. So the positive is if they can keep this grit side of things, that the attack's going to come. We know that they can score points. We know they're a good attacking side when they want to be. So hopefully things can get... Because I would hate to see the Titans win the Spoon. Would you have them right now as favourites for the Spoon?
Yeah. Yes, with New Zealand going home, I think so.
Even with Tigers now losing Madge?
Yeah, fuck, they looked flat yesterday, didn't they? It's a hot field. Yeah, I don't know now.
Have you got them?
I'd have Titans, yeah. I think the Warriors heading home, I know they're only getting a handful of games there, but they're going to be so up for those games. I reckon they can jag a few points there. The Tigers, as bad as they've been, have had their moments. Adam Dewey back is just going to help out immensely, so they'll be able to jag a few. The Titans, I just don't see where wins are going to come from at the moment, unless Fafita comes back on an absolute rampage, but which he could. But
yeah, well, like you will get Fafita back, you'll get Campbell back. Who do you reckon? Who have you got?
Mate, I don't know the answer. Like, you know, probably right now, probably Tigers. I think that you can see that they're really affected by the loss of Madge. I mean, to go from where they were at, losing Madge, and then now they look like a team that truly was hurt by the loss of Madge. He must have built a really good relationship up with them. And, like, this tough thing for the Tigers is they're in this kind of weird position where the seasons are right off. They've lost their coach. There's a lot of reasons to just like pack it in, kind of thing. Whereas the Titans, like they've got great footy in them. It's there. Like we see it for 20-minute periods. We're sitting there going, "Holy shit!" The Titans are a gun side. They're a top 8 side. So anyway, I'm not 100% sure. But now let's go on to the Warriors v Panthers side. Warriors v Panthers. Panthers win 40-6. Gonna sound crazy, but I thought the Warriors ripped in. I really did. Like, I know it sounds mental,
but no one will disagree with you, I don't think.
I thought they ripped in.
Yeah, that's just how good Penrith are. I thought that, you know, obviously Ronald Volkman, he made his debut, which was fantastic to see. You saw his old man in tears as he ran out on the field. We loved that. But I just thought it was incredible watching how relentless Penrith were at going at him the entire game. You can tell that at training all week, they obviously had the left centre in defence would have had the fluoro bib on. They would have gone at him all week. The amount of times they got Liam Martin one-on-one with him was crazy. And, you know, it sounds so easy. I'd just get the big guy one-on-one with the little guy.
Yeah.
But how often do you see teams how often do you see Dave Fafita go one-on-one with anyone?
Yeah.
Like, Penrith just do it like clockwork. They were very impressive. And Volkman, he had a couple of nice touches. I had a couple of message me and say, "Oh, you didn't tell me he couldn't tackle." I guarantee you he can tackle. Watched him for a number of years. He can defend. I think you'll see it over the next few weeks that if you're running with that opinion, you'll be proven wrong. But he just had,
Hang on a sec. You couldn't tell me he tackle. You know what his stats are? 27 fucking tackles and 4 misses.
Yeah.
On debut against the best fucking team in the comp by a mile. Give me a break. You can't tackle.
Yeah. And you'll see more and more. But isn't that just typical Penrith? Kid makes his debut and he has to come into 30 contacts. Yeah. Well, most of them one-on-one.
Exactly. And as you said, first set down the Warriors' end, literally their first set, as you said, they directly got at Volkman on debut. Yep. And what I love about the Panthers is there are no selfish players. There's no egos in that side. To be able to create and craft a set, it's like trying to keep a secret with 17 blokes. Like, someone will fucking say something. Trying to create a set, someone's going to get selfish in most teams and go, "Oh, there's a bit of a hole there. I'm running to that hole because I might be able to get a line break." And then I love getting line breaks. That's what I play rugby league for. Whereas at Penrith Panthers, not a single one of them deviate from what they need to do in that set.
There's so many things in a set that can change it. A simple offload, a tackle break where a guy just tries to bump off and go one more. They just aren't, all 17 understand exactly where they need to be, where they need to get to, and they nail it every single time.
Every time, and so they get themselves in a perfect position. First thing, boom, they go straight at Volkman. They come back again, I think, a couple sets later, and they this wasn't really Volkman's fault, in my opinion. It was a really hard one because they jumped out of one side of the dummy half, and then I think tipped on, and the spacing between him and his four was so far that he would have had to pre-read that play to get there.
But it's a good example of just how quick the NRL is.
Yeah.
Volkman's played cup footies, he's played a lot of rugby league growing up, obviously, and I doubt he would have ever seen a play that quick where Appy scoots out to the left, and then within a split second, he's all of a sudden on the other side of the ruck, hitting a front rower or Dylan Edwards. He could choose which of those players was going to score that try. Penrith,
it was just so smart because you got the rookie on the right there, and you know that his spacing isn't going to be as good as a guy that's played 80 games, and then boom, just that whole gap just went boom. So, look, I thought Volkman had some moments of class. He's a debutant. He debuted against the most dominant side we've seen in a very long time. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, it's so absurd that we recap the game. It was 40-6, and you're like, Warriors dug in. They had a decent crack. Penrith, I thought, were a long way from their best and were quite clunky, and they're beating a team by 30-plus points.
Crazy.
It was 50-50 possession in that game, which is incredible to think. Yet Penrith ran for almost 600 metres more.
Oh, mate.
How does that
they doubled their tackle breaks.
Equate? So Penrith had 11 errors, 73% completion, which isn't terrible, but a long way from where they'd want to be. And they're still just belting them off the park. So they can just, even when they do wrong, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Their first 20 minutes, essentially, Panthers had 55% completion. Yeah. Warriors had 100% completion. So when you look at that, you go, well, the Warriors doing everything they can to try and put themselves in the game. And that's why I think they should be pretty proud of themselves. Yeah, okay, the score was 40-6. We have to remember, the Panthers fucking towed the Cowboys up 22-0 a couple of weeks ago. That's the Cowboys. That's how good this side is. So, look, Warriors, we've spoken about it a bit already. I was really impressed with Reece Walsh's game. I just thought that, he had an error or two in him, but he just kept turning up. He kept at least asking questions of the Penrith side. It wasn't as simple as they're just reading him. They were struggling to contain him in certain parts, which shows you his class.
There was a tackle that he made early in the game where he knocked the ball for. I can't remember who. Yeah,
massive.
But he just got up and went bang. There was another one that Jesse
on
Arthurs.
On Leota,
was it?
Yeah.
Fuck. He's given away about 30 kilos.
Yeah, Walsh on Leota, and he made him drop it.
One-on-one,
crazy.
There was another shot that Jesse Arthurs put on kick-out where he just made a decision to shoot in, and he absolutely nailed kick-out. So there were good moments for the Warriors. It was interesting at the end of that game. He obviously had SJ. He brought them all in. He had a pretty stern talking to. What do you think was said there? Was that just I thought it potentially could have been that this would be the last time that they were going to be at Redcliffe. Was it make sure no fan goes home without?
Yeah, I think it may have been more in that vein.
Yeah.
But I think it may have been all right, boys, put that behind us because we're going back to New Zealand soon. Fresh. And it's a whole different ball game, and we're not going to let down our New Zealand fan base by, not turning up and having a red hot crack. I think it would have been
now that they are going back to New Zealand. You got Adam Fanua-Blake back. You got Josh Curran. You've now got Volkman playing 6, who he'll only be better and better every week. There are positive signs there. I wish they played any other fucking team this weekend.
I know. Any other team, I think they would have, would have been a decent game.
Given a good shake, yeah.
Panthers, look, again, we're on repeat, but what do you say other than, wow, this team is incredible. It's incredible.
Was a scrum play.
Oh, mate, so silky. Bringing Edwards and Luai on the inside, fucking beautiful.
We're sitting there yesterday watching the Knights just go stock standard out of the scrum, and he's sitting there going, fuck.
Far out.
It just does my head in. Create the extra man every time, and teams don't do it, yet Penrith do it every time. Hold it up. Lock gives to halfback who swings around, extra man. Why wouldn't you do it? Anyway.
Now, yeah, look,
we're sitting there and they're obviously playing the Raiders, who he goes for,
Yeah.
and he's complaining because the Knights aren't doing more to score more points.
score
It's
more
just
points.
frustrating.
Get Kalen Ponga there, please.
Panthers, you look at their backs. Taylor and May, 170 metres. Edwards, 209. Tungor, 91. Crichton, 193. To'o, 217. Like, that's wild. Big numbers by their outside backs. Again, like, they're so clinical. The thing with the Panthers is it's hard to review their game because you could honestly you could take my review from round one, play it here, and I'd probably be saying the same thing.
Yeah,
That's how consistent they are.
Yeah.
That's how consistent they are. It's incredible. So, look, unless you guys have got anything to add, like, there's not really much to add. Like, most of them in Origin, we've already spoken about their Origin form. Scott Sorensen, once again, off the bench, I thought he had some impact. Leota is a real unsung hero for them. I think it's real beneficial for them, like, that they have two Kiwi front rowers. I know Leota, I think, is Samoan, actually. But two front rowers that don't play Origin for them, so they get to keep that core in the middle. But yeah, great win, Panthers.
They have got a couple of interesting games coming up, Penrith. Probably more so for the opposition, but they play the Roosters next week. I think the Roosters have lost 3 in a row now. So the Roosters are going to be up for that one. In the run home, they play Parramatta at CommBank. That'll be a cracker as well.
Yep.
And then Melbourne at Penrith again. And then the last game of the season is Penrith v Cowboys up there.
Interesting.
You could potentially see Panthers v Cowboys 2 weeks in a row.
That'd be crazy. Now, Eels versus the Roosters. I thought this was game of the round. That first half was absolutely incredible. The Eels, once again, they're a chance of winning the premiership now. You know, like, last week it's no, this week it's yes. I don't know. I don't know what to do with the Eels. I still think my feelings are the same as they were last week. They've proven they can beat the best sides. I still think they're a chance of having a shake at the premiership grand final. But I thought this was probably one of their best games all year, outside of their Storm and Penrith win. Junior Borlaug was absolutely fantastic. Campbell Gillard, fantastic. Dylan Brown, he's silky. Just so dangerous constantly. Great in defence as well. Yeah, look, having Sivo back, 8 tackle breaks in your what was his second game back? That run where he fended off Joey Manu. Honestly, who has ever done that to Joey Manu? Ever. One of the best defensive centres there is.
We spoke earlier about Lindsay Collins, how well he's going. Like, he's coming off an ACL and doing what he's doing. And we were talking about the footy yesterday. What Sivo's doing is unbelievable. And if you haven't watched him in New South Wales Cup for the last few weeks, he's been braining it. Like, that would have been a quiet game for him in New South Wales Cup over the last 4 or 5 weeks. To come back from an ACL injury in his 5th game of the season, including Cup footy, it's unbelievable. I don't know if we've seen someone bounce back from an ACL so well and so quickly.
Mate, he's been outstanding. And also, like, ACL is all about, like, power and explosivity, and he still has that. What do you think about this game, Timmy?
Yeah, for the one thing that did teach me about the mystery of Parramatta and trying to get a handle on where they're at as a football club is that for their title aspirations this year, and we've all agreed they're contenders, they have to finish top 4. So, I mean, it's so important for everyone. But Parramatta, who have shown such an inability to go multiple weeks in a row of top-notch performances, if they finish outside the 4, they're going to have to put on 4 big performances in a row to win a comp. So at least if they can finish top 4, it gives them that, they can lose a week 1 of finals, or they can win and then get a week off to recuperate, regather. So top 4 will be massive for them. They're good enough to be a top 4 team, but they got beaten by 30 against the Dogs last week, and then pumped the Roosters. Like, what? No idea what's going on.
Yeah, no.
Like, they, without digging into next week, they shouldn't have that floor. That should not be their floor. We know their ceiling is unbelievable, but Penrith, Melbourne, the teams that they're going to have to beat to win the premiership, they don't have that floor. And yes, Parramatta don't do it against those sides, but, as Smithy always says on your show, how you play during the regular season will come out in finals. And Parramatta need to get this sorted out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Performances like yesterday, every time I see Parra do that, they're just such a well-balanced team from 1 to 17. Between inform halves, a classy fullback, their forward pack is stacked. They've got offloading forwards to create this second phase play. And then you've got blokes like Ryan Madison and prior to this week, Nathan Brown coming off the bench and Makatoa. Their whole team is so well-balanced for a squad. Like, you couldn't put together a better 1 to 17 just
absolutely.
about. Like, it's, oh.
Like, you could argue, like, on paper, their team, now they don't have Nathan Cleary, but like their team is as well-rounded as the Panthers, but they're just nowhere near as consistent. But look, I thought it was a fantastic win. It's exactly what they needed. This tough as anything game to just remind them what they can do. But now onto the Roosters. Look, I think the Roosters should take a lot of positives out of this. I thought their forward pack, we saw a forward pack that was playing like the Roosters of yesteryear, of like, you know, when they got the back-to-back 2018, 2019. They were super aggressive. They didn't take a backward step. Now, check this out. This is their front rowers' stats in defence. 47 tackles, 0 misses for Lindsay Collins. 44 tackles, 0 misses for Tokiaho. That's the Roosters that we all know. These motherfucking hard front rowers that just go all day, refuse to take a backward step. I think the Roosters, after seeing that, I've got a bit of hope for them to stay to fight for that 8 spot. If they can continue playing like that, then there's something there this year for them.
It was a bad day to be a butcher. Nat and Egan both went down. It was tough to watch, and that's why you had Lindsay Collins played 57 minutes, the week after Origin.
Yeah,
Takiaho played 64. Very, very impressive. I thought they were both great. Roosters. I know we mentioned him before, but Suwali, he's just so impressive. He just gets better and better every single week. And I know that we're in this conversation of Daniel Tupu, Josh Adokar, Brian To'o. I mean, you put a blind resume over the last month. I reckon Suwali would probably come out on top of all of them.
Mate, this is his stats. 2 tries, 134 metres, 10 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks and an offload. 18 on the sting in a losing side. That's in a losing side. Amazing. Look, I think it's promising signs for the Roosters. I really do. I thought their forward pack really stood up, and I thought their backs did as well. I think I think the real difference in the game was just experience in the halves. I thought that was the real difference for them.
They're another team that I feel like every week we say promising signs. It's looking good. If they are going to give this comp a shake, which they've got the team to be able to do. It needs to start to come together soon. Hopefully Radley getting selected in Origin is a sign that he might be back a little bit earlier than we first thought. That would help a lot. But yeah, obviously the other talking point, Luke Keary, he was named. He was then taken out of this. Apparently still suffering some after effects. Wish him all the very best.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I hope the Butcher brothers are all good as well. Yeah. Absolutely scary seeing that. And also, just quick shout out to Lane. He was incredible for the Eels. Those offloads that he threw in the first half were outrageous.
I think the thing with Lane this year is that, you know, he's always had ability, but the gap between his good games and his bad games over the last few years has been daylight. Now, he doesn't have those really poor games in him. He's playing consistently week in, week out, and you know, this is why Madison's, you know, he started on the weekend. This is why he's been coming off the bench for so long for Parramatta, because you can't possibly take Lane out of the side.
Mate, those offloads were incredible. Now, onto the Raiders Knights. Knights had it. Well, Raiders had it. Then they fade. Knights get back in it. Looks like game over. There's a minute and a half to go. They're camped on their line. Knights give away a penalty. Raiders go essentially 100 metres to score a try. Timmy, what do you think of this game, mate?
The mighty Durs, mate. We find a way. But it was funny. It was an exciting game to watch, but at the same time, you were like, it's like they were both trying to lose it and just go, all right, who can lose it better? Not that it was a bad game to watch by any means, but you're just like, some of the mistakes that were popping up and stupid plays. For the Raiders, it's still just the same problems ringing their heads that I speak about every week, and it's second half fade outs. Like, we came out of the box quite slow with some horrible defensive efforts, but we came back from it, went down early and really bounced back that first half, early in second half. But we just let the Knights back into it so much. There was the Elliott Whitehead sin binning, which didn't help us at all. They scored a try during that one just after it, I think it was, so that didn't help. But look, we're at a point now where we're not going to win the comp this year. We're not going to finish top 4. If we can scrape into the top 8, that'll be considered a decent season, and it'll be games like this where we've snuck away with the 2 points that they'll all add up. And
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Raiders have turned a corner. Like, they're not obviously not the same as they were 2019. Was it 18 or 19? 19. But I absolutely believe they've turned a corner. Yes, the Knights fought their way back into it, but Raiders were great in the first half. Tarpanel was outstanding. Young was outstanding. Adam Elliott, since he's gone to 13, I think it's very clear that's his position now. Like, very clear that he's his position now. Look, really good signs. Really good signs for the Raiders, in my opinion. I know that they won it at the death, but like when you've got guys like Corey Horsburgh coming off the bench running for 137 metres, I just think they're slowly building a well-rounded side, and they did that without Jackie Whiten. I honestly like what I saw on the weekend.
They're still missing Kempy. Just attack on the edge. Just like,
Yeah.
I sat there in the back end of that game, and I do it every week with the Raiders, going, all right, when we're chasing points, where are they going to come from?
Yeah.
And it always comes from a grubber from a forward or a taps freak offload, a bit of footwork or Papali'i around the line. I don't think if they swing it early to any of those outside backs, I don't think they're going to produce one-on-one bits of magic to win it for us. And that's my concern going forward in terms of scoring points. But the forward pack is humming.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, they used to have Leilua that could do that. You'd spin it to Leilua or you'd do something crazy to Rapana. Look, I think Tomoko has signs of that. The good fend in Dangago for a try. I think Chotrich has really been playing some really good footy. Probably the best he's played since he's been back at Raiders. When Nickel Klugster, when he comes back, would you put him straight back at 1? There's a superstar there in Savage. There really is. It's just there's too many errors at the moment. Just a bit rough. What would you do?
Because of what I just said, I think I'd keep him there because I just think we need points. And I think I mentioned it the other week, but he is X factor in that team that can pull things out of his arse. Chance is probably not what we need right now in the back line. Just another... he's a safe player. He'll do a job. He'll run his meters. He'll support and all of that. I just think we need some X factor. In most other squads, you'd be like, Chance straight back in because Savage has so many errors in his game among the brilliant. Yeah. But I just think we need points, and I think that's more Savage.
What do you reckon, Guru?
Yeah, I'm torn. I agree with everything he just said. I'm a big Chance fan. I think he is the more consistent and the better rounded fullback, but they do need points at the moment. It's tough, and I agree with what you said that Xavier, he can pull something out of his arse whenever, but he can also pull a brain explosion out of his arse whenever. Chance, you find the middle ground, but I'm not sure if middle ground is what the Raiders need to make the top 8 at the moment.
I reckon I would be moving Chotrich into centre for Chris. I'd be moving Savage to the wing, and I'd be putting Chance back. And just saying, when we do need points, just swap them, put Chance on the wing for a few sets, at least in attack. I just think Chance... I understand what you mean with X Factor, but I actually think you'll actually get more points with him on the field because you'll be able to do structured plays. Yep. Good ball playing that Chance has. But it's interesting. Savage, he's so exciting. He really, if you took the errors out of his game, we'd be all sitting here going, wow, this kid's special. Just a bit rough. Just a little bit rough. And that's why I think, if the Raiders were in a better position, they probably would have been in a stronger position to allow him to play maybe a year in reserve grade just to get his bearings and then come in. But, he scored a try assist. It's bloody good.
There was a moment in that where Savage, there was going to be a 40-20, so I threw it back in. It happened so quick. I'm not holding it against him, but as a former fullback winger, what do you do in those moments? Do you just let it trickle over and let your D...
Yeah, if you can't make it, you let it go.
But he obviously thought he could make it. He wasn't that far off making it as well.
But he couldn't make it because he had to flick it back in. If you can't grab the ball...
Oh, okay. If you can't physically hold it.
It was inexperienced because his momentum stopped him from tapping it and then quickly stepping and come back in. He was diving, tapped it, it's just awareness, because he wasn't aware that Rapana was injured. So I think Rapana had a head knock and then he got taken off after that play.
Okay.
So it was a calamity of errors. Like, if Rapana wasn't injured, Rapana gets that ball. But if you've played a few NRL games, you've got enough awareness to be like, as you're running to the ball, like, where's Rapana? Is he close by? Because when you watch the footage again, there's like 3 or 4 Knights and no Raiders players, and that's because Rapana was. So that's kind of in defence of Savage. Like, he probably would have expected Rapana to be there, and I'm sure he'll learn his lesson of, like, you know what, next time just let it go out. They get the 40-20, whatever. Look, nearly every fullback has that. You can find footage of Billy, every fullback having that moment where they go for the big play to call it back in, and then a try scored or something like that. But
just one more guy that you mentioned before too. I think Corey Horsburgh, his last month has been unreal.
Outstanding.
He's gone to. I remember when he was it at Combank when he did his Liz Frank a couple of years. I think it was 2020. I remember thinking, fuck, I reckon he'll play Origin at the end of this year. He's now sort of starting to find that form again down there in Kingston.
Absolutely.
He'd have played Origin that year just because Queensland had so many injuries and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I personally think good signs. Good signs for the Raiders. They got the win back home. They're still in the hunt for the 8, which will be a win for them. Newey Knights. Timmy, what do you reckon? What's going on there?
Yeah, they're running out of excuses a little bit because they're getting back to a near full-strength side there. Kurt Mann's back at lock. You've got Mitchie Barnett, all sorts of fellas back. I know Clifford was a game day out, but, they just... I don't know why they're not getting up bigger for games. They've got Dan Saifidi to come back. Hopefully he can help, but... I don't really know what to make of them. And as we said, Ponga, look, I think this is not confirmed. I've seen a few things around and it nearly has to be right, but I think Ponga had gastro carrying through that game.
Yeah, I actually read that as well.
Because there was about 5 minutes into the game, he was on his haunches and looked like he was trying to throw up. And the whole game, if it wasn't like carrying a shoulder or... He just looked crook the whole way. And to put on a performance that he did up until that moment that I honestly think you can't sugarcoat it, cost him the game. He had some really good impact on that. So credit to him, because if he fought through that and was as crook as he looked, that's a massive effort. But yeah, the old 90s, I don't know where they go from here, mate, because battling.
Yeah, I'm the same. What do you reckon, Guru?
If it is true, imagine doing anything with gastro, let alone playing fullback, first grade rugby league.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And mate, I thought there was the try he set up. I think it was for Kurt Mann. He got in a dummy half and he took control of the whole set. He was literally pointing at blokes, you there.
Yeah.
Playing out a dummy half. It should be easy for the Raiders to defend that, but KP, he's so quick over a metre or two.
It's so dangerous.
I felt sorry for KP on that last play. I thought Adam Clune was really good. Obviously, he kicked that 40-20, set up the try where he put Barnett through and he popped it back to him. I think it was Edric that scored that try at the end. It was interesting because Jake Clifford, he played reserve grade. So they've gone for...
Milford Clune.
Yeah. So I thought was...
I do think they're missing probably a bit of length in their kicking. I don't know if Milford is a big, long kicker. He's a decent short kicker. Milford missing 9 tackles doesn't help. Look, I don't know what to say anymore with the Knights, unfortunately. I just don't know what to say. I feel like their squad is a top 8 squad. We speak about it every single week, but at the moment, it's just not coming together. It just feels like they're all disjointed and there's no real game plan or direction, and then they drop a bunch of ball early on, or they just miss a bunch of tackles or kick out in the full. It's just wasn't it? So it was after points. Didn't they kick out in the full after points yesterday? Yeah.
Sent one dead. Matty Frawley called it.
Yeah. And you're just far out, man. Kicking out in the full.
Are we looking at Adam O'Brien and thinking he's under a little bit of pressure here?
You have to, don't you? With their side back and they're still... And you could say that, all right, they were one play away from winning this game, but even if they won, you're not sitting there being convinced, are you?
Yeah, and I think that's the tough thing at the moment. You look, there's 3 coaching jobs up for grabs for next year. I'm not sure if there's 3 capable coaches ready to come in. There's definitely not 4.
Yeah, look, I think you stick with Adam O'Brien you give him the start of next season probably. If this continues and they finish, 12th, 13th, I think you probably have a chat to him and say you've got 10 rounds next year. which is unfortunate because I think he's a good coach. I think he's walked into a club that has no junior system, no real setup underneath. It's just been so. We have to remember that decade where everything happened. Like, you can't recover from that very quickly. Like, that club was smashed to bits by everything that happened with it. And so I do feel a bit for Adam O'Brien, because it's when you're trying to really push into that elite level and you don't have the same junior, like compare like Penrith juniors to Newcastle juniors, it's like night and day. And as a club, so...
But it shouldn't be. Like,
I know that, but that's not his fault.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's just
he didn't put that all together. That's what he's dealing with, the consequences of like a decade of absolute destruction.
And you see so many guys that debut at other clubs and Newcastle, like Grant Anderson, he's from Scone.
Yeah,
like another guy that just slipped through their system. It's like, I think Nick Meaney's another one. He's doing great down there at Melbourne now. Like, there's a heap of guys that come through in the Newcastle system, go elsewhere, and are so successful.
They let go of Dane Gagai, even though he went and Rabbitohs, played really well. Their half situation, they haven't handled that correctly. Mitchell Pearce getting released and them not wanting to re-sign. Like, for example, we look at like Townsend, Reynolds, to see what they've done at the Broncos and Cowboys, and then to think that Newcastle weren't willing to offer Mitchell Pearce 2 years. You go, what? And I think that was a big, unfortunately, and a lot of Newey fans, like, I respect if you feel that Mitchell wasn't as good as you thought he was, but are you telling me the Knights would be in this position if Mitchell Pearce was in this side?
Nope.
And and then some people would like to say, because like when Mitchell Pearce is in the side, they win more matches when he was there. But then people say, well, yeah, but look at the teams they played. But it's like, you cannot sit here and tell me that this club doesn't need a dominant 7 right now. And they lost Mitchell Pearce. He wanted to stay at the club, to my understanding, with the reports and everything I've read, because they didn't want to offer him 2 years, and they were only offering him a year, and that's why they lost him. And I think that people that made that decision, they bear responsibility for that. The Knights are crying out for an experienced spine player right now, crying out. Now Milford is experienced, but he is not your leader. Like, he's not the tip. Like, he's the tip of the spear. He's not the actual spear. And although he has moments, he's not going to. We saw at Broncos, like, he's not going to be the organiser. He needs a high-quality organiser. So it's tough, man. I just really don't know what's going on at the Knights. I don't know how they fix it. And unfortunately, if they don't sort the junior stuff out, they may band-aid the situation. Like, at the moment, they got the right squad, but yeah, so...
It's interesting, like, obviously, they weren't able to keep Mitch Barnett. He's going to the New Zealand Warriors next year. They're going to keep Lachlan Fitzgibbon next year, obviously, and as soon as Barnett comes back, he's straight to the back row, and Fitzgibbon's he's not in the 17 anymore. He's playing reserve grade again, and he's the guy that they're going with next year.
I will say Adam Elliott's probably I'd pick Elliott over Barnett. So they've signed Elliott to replace Barnett at 13.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, like, Barnett's not going to be there next year. And they've got, Fitzgibbon will be, and they've got him playing reserve grade, and Barnett comes in and plays huge minutes straight away.
Yeah, I just think Barnett's probably just a little bit better than Fitzgibbon.
Barnett has to start and play big minutes.
Yeah,
he means a lot to that team.
So, look, tough times. Tough times for the Newey Knights. I don't know what the answer is. I think Adam O'Brien deserves at least, he's just a bit of slack, man. And on top of everything we just said, they have been so unlucky with injuries over the last, not just this year, but like the last 3 or 4 years. So I think that although it's only natural that Adam O'Brien would be under pressure, I think they should give him a longer crack to try to work this out. At least into mid next year, and then do a review mid next year. That's what I would be doing. Now, on to Doggies versus Tigers. Mate, the Doggies look outstanding. Outstanding. Max King was massive on the weekend and has been massive for the last few weeks. Kyle Flanagan and Burton's combination seems to be growing every single week. Burton has been released to play the way he needs to play. Mate, the Doggies right now are playing top 8 footy. Well, at least the last 2 weeks, they're playing top 8 footy. Now, I'm not sure whether they'll continue it, but fuck, they look good to me. What do you reckon, Guru?
Yeah, I don't want to piss in our own pockets, but I will. They've literally done everything we said they should have done in the pre-season, and fucking shocked me they start to win games of football.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I think most people could tell Flanagan needed to be there long term.
Oh, for sure. And I'm not. We didn't reinvent the wheel by saying Jake Averillo should be fullback and Flano should be at 7, but seemingly everyone in that room at Canterbury couldn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing as well is like moving Josh Jackson to the edge rather than 13. I think it's helped. Tavita Pangai Jr., although he's not your traditional 13, he does offer a lot of offloads, and you can work off him and create extra numbers because of his offloads. On the weekend, he had 8 offloads. So, like, it's not a ball-playing 13, but it is a 13 that if you are expecting there's a good chance of an offload, you can have people ready to attack that side.
And I think that, where we were sitting, we had Willie Mason was just a few metres away, and I noticed every single time Tavita got the ball, he was sort of saying that everyone be ready. It's obviously like they're implementing it into their game plan to play second phase footy off the back of Tavita Panko Jr. Max King, he also offloads on just about every third run that he takes.
Yeah.
The thing that I loved about Canterbury, watching them yesterday, was that they scored a lot of points, and it wasn't just Burton coming up with a trick shot kick to find Adokar in space. Like they weren't relying on that. They were coming up with genuine tries throughout the game. They had the intercept, obviously. What about Curtis Moran? It was his debut. It might have been his first touch of the football.
Doing these ones to the
He
crowd.
ran that line from halfway.
Incredible.
He was absolutely trucking and just hit it perfectly. I thought Josh Adokar came up with probably one of the worst plays of Josh Adokar's career, his defensive play on Nofaluma for the first try. From that moment on, he was unreal.
Yeah. I think Raymond Fatala Mariner, he's really finding that form that excited us as fans. What do you think of the game, Timmy?
Yeah, the big watch on this one was obviously following the Doggies' big win last week. All right, massive win against old rivals Parramatta. Can they back it up 2 weeks in a row? And you're probably going to be a little bit sceptical of it. And they come out at halftime. They led something like 12-6, but they had a lot of possession. They had just about double the amount of metres run, which is enormous for two teams in the contest. And they came out and they were sort of waiting for that possession to swing and go, the Doggies to fade off for a little bit, and they did, and they just put the foot to the throat in the second half. Granted, the Tigers were pretty ordinary, but on the back of the Doggies being savages, they were really, really good. Line speed was fantastic, and they just absolutely put them away in that second half. And Guru mentioned about how TPJ offloading and how he's obviously encouraged to offload. When you say a bottom 8 side or a team that struggles for points and you're lacking stars, your Munsters, your Pongers who can bust tackles and create things out of nothing, to me, second phase play is the obvious answer, because that can rattle any opposition no matter who they are, and it's an easy way of creating attacking footy. I shouldn't say easy, but, and in Max King is a big one. He's got a great offload on him. TPJ, we know, does. So your Burtons and the likes are feeding off the back of that, and they're putting some great footy together, and hope it continues.
Yeah, absolutely. Averillo, I think he's their long-term fullback. I think you keep him there. I think him, Burton, Flanagan. I also want to give a shout out to Jeremy Marshall-King. Far out, he's improved. Honestly, like when he first got into that 9 role, I was like, I'm not seeing it. But he, week in, week out, he just keeps chipping away. And now I think he's developing quite a dangerous running game. So he's been really good. This side with Kickow and Reid Marnie in it, playing like this, mate, Doggies fans get excited. If they play like this with Reid Marnie and Kickow, get excited.
And there's so many guys in this team they aren't paying much money who are very this Kiraz.
Oh my
he's
God.
Great.
He's so good.
Kiraz, Shop, he's been fantastic as well. Even Averillo, for what you can get out of him at fullback, compared to the money you're paying him, it's sensational.
Yeah. Yep. And he can ball play. So as long as you get your structures right, as long as you can teach the boys the right lines to run, he will be able to ball play and get the extra man on the edge. Now onto the Tigers. Look, man, it's early days. First of all, I want to shout out Alex 12. Glad he's okay. By all reports and on social media, he's all good, but that was scary. So glad he's okay. But just with the Tigers, unfortunately, I know it's only been 2 weeks, but it looks right now that they should have at the very least waited till the end of the season to sack Michael Maguire. At the very least. I don't know how it has helped the club to sack him after watching the last 2 weeks' game. To go against last year's Wooden Spooners and get towered up in one of their best wins they've had in a very long time. I'm concerned that it might get worse before it gets better at the Tigers. What do you think, Guru?
I think it will too, and I think they should have stuck with Madge to the end of the season if you weren't going to do that. They sacked him 2 days after a bye. Like, at least give Brett Camorley 2 weeks to sort out what he's going to do with this side. They looked very flat, very defeated to me yesterday. It's obviously scored a try just about the last minute. James Tamu scored when there was only 12 on the field. I think it's pretty evident that Hastings is playing through that injury still. He looks pretty slow at the moment. And I mean, I think Hastings was willing to play through injury and everything when he was playing for Madge, but if I was Jackson, I'd be looking around the room going, you've shown no confidence in what we're doing here. It's tough.
If he's injured, I would be playing at the moment because he's not getting any thanks for it. People are just going to be like, oh, your form's dropped. What do you reckon, Timmy, of the Tigers?
Yeah, pretty dismal there. Not sort of too much to say on it that we haven't spoken about in past weeks. The one thing I was looking forward to was the return of Adam Doueihi, which he's so good that he can spark a lot in this team once he gets back to some fitness, and we know how long it takes, particularly attacking players and backline players, to come back from ACL. So while I don't expect miracles, I think he can bolster them a lot. I was really interested in how they'd inject him. And when he first came on, it surprised me a little bit. They sort of put him on what looked like a floating half lock roll, almost like a Ben Hunt 14 origin roll where he'd come on at times and float around as another link man. And it was cool. I was getting excited by it, but then quite shortly after, Stafford Toa went off injured and he went straight to centre. Yeah. So we'll see how that eventuates in coming round, but on a tough day, something to look forward to and be happy to see him back. Yeah, absolutely. Adam Doueihi back, that's only good signs for the club. I think outside, did he have one error? Oh, my God. David Nofaluma, he had one error. But outside of that, 181 metres, 8 tackle breaks, 2 offloads. That's back to close to his really good stats that, put him as one of the best wingers in the comp. So the tough thing is I just don't know where they're going to find the energy and motivation with Madge gone. They do really seem like they've built a bond with Madge. They really do seem like they were responding to him.
Losing Leilua is a big one too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really going to hurt them, I think.
Look, some of the decisions, I just don't know. The decisions sometimes at the Tigers, doesn't make sense. Like, if I'm a club trying not to win the spoon, I'm doing everything I can to keep Leilua at the club till the end of the season. Now, fair play to them. Like, they've done really good by Leilua by saying, look, go play footy with a top 4 side. You might play for a premiership. But far out, I'd be thinking about not winning the spoon before I'd be thinking about that. So look, tough times for the Tigers. Hopefully they can bounce back. Hopefully they can. Anything else on the Tigers, boys?
Nah, tough day at the office.
All good, mate.
That's us for the day, guys. Make sure Wednesday, 6 p.m, Bloke jumpers are dropping and trackies as well. $79.95 for the jumpers. We've got black and brown. $49.95 for the trackies. We've got black and brown. And shipping is free if you buy both. Grab a case of Bloke in a bar from your local. Bloke Midi is now in all Liquor Legend stores across New South Wales, ACT and Queensland and Victoria. And Bloke Original is in every single Bottle-O, Celebrations, IGA Plus Liquor and Porters Liquor in New South Wales and ACT. Plus, it's in every single Celebration Superstore in Queensland. We've got a store locator on our website, blokeinabar.com. You put in your postcode, shows you the nearest stockist. Follow SC Playbook's podcast on all good podcasting app, SC Playbook, and also at SC Playbook 1.
That's it, mate.
On Instagram and Facebook. Rugby League Guru on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe to the Guru podcast, and I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.